We're going to get started at our committee of the whole meeting for February the 12th, starting at 1:03. We're just going to move to approval of the agenda. Are there any late items? I do have one late item to add, and that is I'd like to have a bit of a discussion about the Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue Boathouse. So I need to move her on that. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bushel, all in favor? Thank you. I recommended that the committee of the whole meeting agenda be approved as amended. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Bailey, all in favor? Thank you. I can't see Malcolm. Malcolm, if you're putting up your hand, I can't see you. Let's see that tanned face. I know where you are.
I'll be up the next audit.
Anyone after, it's not gonna happen.
Okay, so we are going to start with delegations today. We have the Ministry of Transport and Transit regarding the RW Bruin Bridge project. And we've got Micah, the project manager here. So come on up and share away with us. Welcome, Micah. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here today.
There's questions on this project mid last year, so I don't have all the history, but I do have it with me. So my name is Micah Schimpf. I'm the project director of the project. I've got Kevin Weicker, who's our engineering director for the Trans Canada Highway Program, and Jason Tinkbad, who is with our contractor project lead builder. So today we thought we'd just quickly go through a bit of an update. I'm sure that you've all studied our designs that are on the highway, on the website, sorry. So we'll go through that. We've got some other updates, questions that we've put in. Questions. So maybe with that, Kevin, I'll let you.
Sure. We just want to start off with a quick overview of the project as a whole. This is a refresher for everyone to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is a computer model that we've done that shows what the final product will look like when construction is done. This picture is taken pretty much right above Silver Sands Road, looking west towards Salmon Arm. We can see kind of starting at the bottom left corner, we've got the new 4-lane highway, the new bridge across the Narrows. Immediately to the west of the Narrows, existing old Spall Machine Road intersection has been relocated up the hill. A little difficult to see in this picture. I think it's better on the next one, but it's been replaced now with two right on and right off intersections with an overpass. So there's no more left turns on and off the highway. It's all right hand turns with a connection under the highway. Go to the next slide, please. So this is now from the west side looking east back towards town. Again, you can see the bridge. The new bridge is going to be in between the existing bridge and the CP rail bridge. It's a tight spot, but it does fit in there. What we can see on this picture is the pedestrian and cyclist access across the Narrows. So starting at Gill Avenue, there is a separated pedestrian path across the bridge. That on the west side heads down what was previously Old Spall Road. It would no longer be a road. It will be just that pedestrian path, which goes down and connects to the new Old Spall Road, which goes from the areas south of the project underneath the new bridge and up to the highway connection to the west up the hill. And there are some improvements at Gill Avenue with the left turns, as well as at Silver Sands. And the project ends just on the west side of the 97A Highway 1 intersection. And that's where we go back down to 2 lanes and match what is there today. So that's just a very brief overview of what we're building. We'll get now onto the more interesting things about how we're building and what's going on out there right now.
Thanks, Kevin. I know we've had some questions and feedback about the highway closures that we do have closed from every day from 9 till 3, Monday to Saturday. So that is our winter closure routine. What you see on the slide here is what is allowable during winter and summer. So winter is the second blue box there. Right now, contracting team has not been using the nighttime closures. We've only been going into single lane alternating traffic, and we can expect that to continue unless something were to change. So for the summer, summer starts for us June 15th. We see tremendous increase in traffic on the Trans-Canada in general, so that's a hard date for us on June 15th. So as of June 15th to September 15th, there will be no daytime closures. There will only be closures that are allowable from 7:30 p.m. till 9 p.m. and also nighttime during 12 to 4 a.m. We are still working with our contractors to work on what the schedule looks like for that, so we will have more information as we go. We do have our 4-week look ahead that continues to be on our website as really where people, if they're planning ahead, that's where you'll find that information. But also if you want to know what's happening today, Drive BC is our source of truth. And so we have been updating that if any change had happened. Also the alternate routes has been a good opportunity for us to do some additional work on highway lines that in A and B. We have installed the new signal at the intersection of 97 A and B, and we did have some challenges in the beginning of that. So we have been working through signal timing and adjusting that timing as we go. We've also changed what used to be the merge. If you were driving from St. Bernard to Enderby, we've changed that to a merge yield. Yield from a merge. So hopefully that helps us as well. We continue to monitor that, and we are likely to do some additional works once the weather is warmer, that we can do some line painting and help folks understand that area better. And that is going to stay our alternate routes throughout the project. Continue to monitor it. I know there's been some questions about 97A on the Mara walls. That has taken us much longer than we anticipated. It was initially scheduled to be done in October and still not done. Latest we've heard is that it's going to be open in February or completed by the end of February. And that was really just the unforeseen site conditions that we have there where the work has taken us much longer than we anticipated. Hence, we still have slept at nighttime there. And Kevin, do you want to take that?
Sure. This is the same picture we saw a couple of minutes ago. Just wanted to highlight some of the current construction activities that are happening on this, on the project right now. Starting up at the top, what looks like a big kind of gray log cut through the forest there. That is our big rock cut. We've got a lot of rock that's got to be removed in order to build the highway, and that is currently why we have daytime closures. Jason and the contractors team are blasting rock out there every day and hauling it off site. So that is a significant piece of work that is ongoing now and will be going on through the spring. Some of that rock is being hauled just to the east side of the bridge. You can see out there now there's a big rock pile being built right beside the highway. That is preload, and the point of that is to get some settlement out of the soil before we build our highway on it. So that is being built up now. The rest of the rock is being hauled down to Harvey Pit off of 2 Mile Road. So those activities are going on. The last significant piece of work now is they're starting the bridge construction. They're currently building the work bridge that will get us out to the first pier for the permanent bridge in the water. And that pier installation or the piles for that pier are going to be starting imminently. They need to be done by the end of March to hit our environmental windows in there. So that activity is ongoing. And just one note around that bridge work. I believe there's been some questions come in about the boat launch operation. The boat launch is currently open. It has been open through construction. It will remain open throughout construction. Jason's team is working on putting some additional signage up on the site just so that the public is aware that that boat launch is open still and available for use. Yeah, we have demolition of the existing bridge on that slide. That is still 2 years out.
Fall of 2026.
Fall of 2026, so a year and a half out before traffic is moved on to the new bridge, and we'll start the demolition of the old bridge.
I'll give 2 other quick updates. One, there have been questions about the channel. So we can confirm that for 2025, there will be two-way boat traffic through the Narrows at all times. There might be minor interruption, but they would be very temporary in nature if so. Also, we've had questions about pedestrian access under the bridge. As of April 15th, we will reinstate the access that was underneath the bridge. There may be some temporary minor pauses where we need to move a piece of equipment and or when we're launching girders. So there might be some minor interruptions, but we will communicate that. But pedestrian traffic will be reinstated in April.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, and thanks for being here. And I will, before I move forward, I just want to introduce Dean. We're probably wondering who the new face is in the room. This is Street Staton. Dean will be our new CAO, replacing CAO Garceau. So welcome, Dean, and I'm sorry that I didn't introduce you from the get-go. Okay, so now I'm going to open this up to council. Questions? Councilor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to say thank you. You guys are, it's a big project and you guys are reacting to any of the concerns that we've been having. So I appreciate that. And, the big concern I hear a lot about is the stacking of trucks. And you guys addressed that right away by putting the cones further back and stopping the trucks from parking on the highway until the bridge opens up just prior to opening. But we're still really concerned about the starting to see some of the shoulders bust away on where the trucks are actually all parking. So maybe our roads aren't built for that much volume of heavy traffic. And I noticed that on the service road, and also you'll probably see a lot of it happen with the big trucks turning left to go down Highway 97. That is really rough in there. So just little pointers that, but I appreciate all you guys are doing, and you're doing a good job. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your comments. We are continuing to monitor it. We know that at the beginning of any project, especially the guys, there's going to be some bumps to work out, and the certificate staff have been fantastic in working with us and communicating. So I'm happy to keep that conversation going. And also we are continuing to monitor Highway 97 and Highway 1, where that intersection is that you spoke about, and the shoulders, and also on Dumont Road. So we continue to keep monitoring those, and we will make sure that we leave it in good stead.
Thank you. Councilor McCabe. Oh,
You're muted.
you're muted, Malcolm. Can't hear you. Are you there? Can't hear you.
No. Muted.
Why is it?
I've asked him to unmute, but it's not, I can't force it through. It doesn't look like.
Do you know sign language?
There, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Good job. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just leave myself unmuted. Yeah, I noticed that the ministry's already hired some local companies for part of the bridge project. I'm just wondering, moving forward, what kind of accommodations there are for local hire?
So great question through the chair. So we do have this project under the community benefits agreement. So through BCIB, structure benefits. So that does require local workers to have priority as part of the union operations. As it pertains to other corporate companies, maybe Jason, I'll invite you to speak to that.
Yeah, so through the corporate companies, it still follows through the BCIB process.
Sorry, Jason, can I get you to step up to the mic? Thanks.
Through the BCIB, it still follows, through the local hire process, it still follows through the BCIB, but all the companies, we've been really promoting the local companies and bringing them in on board through the BCIB program. So right now, currently, I believe out of the 62 workers we have on site, I believe 21, 22 are all local hires. So we've had some success with just getting local hires and really promote that side.
Just businesses and sycamores. businesses in
Yes,
Sycamoose,
business and
contractors.
Local hires as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Malcolm, any follow-up to that? Are you good?
You know, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I just have a question about the pedestrian and cycling access on and into Small Machine Road. You'll obviously know we're building a rail trail there, and one of the key elements is having that connectivity all the way into town. And some of the plans changed around there due to some cultural issues that were identified from 0 to 0.5. And I'm just wondering, what is the plan now?
Did you?
Yeah.
If you don't like having to
Perfect.
better at it, so we'll show you what we're doing. Start.
Sure, and thanks for the question.
Mhm.
Through the chair, there's a few things going on here. First, we have been working very closely with the Rail Trail Society and that working group that's comprised of a lot of different community members and interest group. We've been working very closely with them to figure out this connection between our project and mile zero of the rail trail.
There's a second.
There's a couple different ones.
Or says they pull it up.
Yeah.
That one?
That one?
Yeah. So as part of the project, what we are constructing for cyclists and pedestrians, we're starting a 3-meter wide multi-use path at the intersection of Finlayson and Gill Avenue. That path will go up Gill Avenue on to the side of the highway, separated from traffic with a concrete barrier, across the south side of the new bridge. And then once we get to the west side of the bridge, that's where the path will peel off to the left and follow down what's currently Old Small Machine Road. That road will no longer be a traffic road, it will be just this pedestrian connection. You can see that in the blue cyan colored line. If you can see this, so this kind of pink purple line, that's our multi-use path that comes across the bridge.
Okay.
Once we get to the west side, where that current intersection is at Old Small and the highway, that's where this multi-use path will come down and follow what is currently Old Small Road.
Okay.
Down to where we get to the new Old Small Road, if you will, and we've got a crosswalk that crosses the highway at that point, or it crosses Old Small at that point. And this is where we've been working with the Rail Trail Society, is from this crosswalk down to Old Congreve. And then Old Congreve is the intended use for getting down to the rail trail. We've been working with the Rail Trail Society for what happens for this little stretch. It's about a 50-meter long stretch, fairly short stretch. Our current design has a widened shoulder that will accommodate cyclists and pedestrians. The Rail Trail Society has expressed some interest in doing a little bit more there to accommodate them, and we've been working with them to provide some different ideas and some different ways that they could go about providing a bit more space to cyclists and pedestrians in this stretch here from the crosswalk down to Old Congreve Road, or to Congreve Road. Oh, yeah, thank you, Mike. Right now, Congreve Road is the main access into the CPKC works yard. When the project is done, that will no longer be an access. So there'll be 0 vehicle traffic going down Old Congreve Road. That CP access gets moved up to underneath the bridge. We're building them a new driveway into the CPKC yard. So all the current trucks that use Old Congreve Road will now be using this new driveway. So for cyclists and pedestrians, there will be no interference with vehicles, just for cyclists and pedestrians.
Just a quick follow-up. So I mean, there's some in flux discussion still going, but I guess what I'm hearing is that you're on it, that there will be that connectivity to that rail trail as part of this project.
Well, our project limits end on Old Small Road, and we're working with the Rail Trail Society for them to complete the connection down. So that is south of this crosswalk and south of where our work on Old Small Roads, that is outside of our project, but we are working with the rail trail to develop some ideas that they could pursue for that connection.
So it would be ultimately them driving that project from that period, and it'll be their I guess it would be their cost.
And just for timeline on this, one of the last things that we will be doing on the project is connecting, obviously we need to do demolition on the bridge. But what that requires is the new bridge, the pedestrian connection is actually on that side, so that will be one of the last things that we do. So we won't have that connection established for pedestrians until 2027. Just for the way that this thing of the project works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anything?
Well, it's just noticing the condition of the bridge right now. The roadway is very bad and I would expect that it's gonna get much worse. I mean, usually it has to be built up in the spring anyways, but that's gonna be a constant until, right? So, yeah, it's really not looking all that great. So,
Okay, thank you.
For the chair, so we do have a maintenance program that is part of the plan and part of the works. And in the past, we've been maintaining or doing patches over the spring and the fall. We also have some permanent railing works that will need to get done before the summer season is their target. We'll be working inside that work with the current construction activity.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Again, you know, my pet peeve is Highway 1 and 97A, which has been repaired, I don't know, 4 times in the last 2 months. And I think they've tried to do their very best, but it is still really bad. So it would be great if there could be a solution there because it is a really bad turn and really, yeah, really rough. The other thing is just clarification on the boat launch. You said the boat launch is open. Okay, will the boat launch, sorry, and I may have missed this, remain open? Just the launch, and it's going to remain open from now until? It's always going to be open.
If I can jump in on that, the boat launch through the length of the project will mostly remain open. There's a couple of specific activities we will need to close the boat launch for, specifically the bridge demolition, given that the bridge is right over top of the boat launch. There's a pier right at the end of the boat launch. So we will need to close it for short periods of time to do that demolition, which will be 2027, bridge demolition,
Fall of 26.
fall of 26.
Like October, November, so it shouldn't impede.
Yeah, so there will be a short period of time where the boat launch will be closed, fall of 26. Otherwise, it will,
Perfect. Okay, and just to follow up, maybe don't step away yet, just to follow up with that. 2020, just so that folks in the gallery and folks online know, 2025, the channel will remain open 2 directions for both traffic. 2026, what does that look like? Are we going to have alternating traffic or boat traffic stopped on the Shuswap side and the Mara side? Like, what does that look like for next year?
I'll try this and. Jump in.
It'll be fully open. We'll have a small shutdown during 2026 in February for Girder launch. And then after that, it'll be right back open. So it'll be a couple days where it'll be closed and then it'll be fully open through the whole project.
Okay, that's perfect. That's very good clarification. I get those questions all the time as to what the channel looks like and what the launch looks like. I have, and you've answered the beach park closures. I did talk to Sergeant McNeil, and he's feeling pretty good with the situation right now, but he did make a comment, and it's not to you guys, it is to residents and travelers and tourists. And that is just slow down. We got flaggers on the road. And if there's one complaint that we're getting and he's getting is that folks aren't slowing down for the flaggers. They're standing out there in the middle of traffic. So we need to really pay attention and slow down around those folks on the road. So any more questions? Councillor Bushel?
Through the chair, just one more. You did mention the boat launch is going to be open. I can't remember. Is the dock going to still stay in position or is it coming out?
The dock is already out.
Yeah, but it's not going to go back in until the end of the project. Thank you.
Okay, no, that sounds great. Anything else? Okay, you guys got away easy. Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Just warming up.
Thanks for keeping us informed.
Alrighty.
Okay. Next, we have BC Conservation Officer Service, Wildlife Tracted Bylaw, Sergeant Terry.
I brought them this as well.
I know, I recognize some of your friends.
Folks that haven't had the opportunity, my name is Terry Roniak. I'm the conservation officer and I'm the sergeant of the North Okanagan Zone. I've been a conservation officer over 25 years and I've worked in service to your community for about the last 15. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to speak with you regarding wildlife conflict prevention, and specifically to talk about your attracted bylaw, which I'm very, very happy to see is being in development. It's a really positive step forward. I think you're going to see a lot of rewards, through that development in your community. So, I think it would probably be, even though I'm sure most of you know what our agency is about, I just would like to take just a few minutes just to kind of go through who we are, what we do, and specifically what we don't do as well, just for clarity. The next slide. So you're a public safety provider focused on natural resource law enforcement. And then the other component of our job, which we're probably more known for, is human wildlife prevention and response. With that, those two words, prevention and response, there's been quite a dynamic shift, I think, over the course of my career with putting more and more resources into prevention versus the response portion. And I think most will agree that that's where the effort should be spent, because as the old adage goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Or if we want to Canadianize it, we should probably say grams and kilograms. But at any rate, that's the direction we've been moving for really for quite some time. And as well, it's also been moving that way with our communities as well. And it's, I think the shift has gone from the provincial government managing the wildlife to realizing that we all have to do our part to manage the wildlife, because we need to approach it all from the unified. So, looking at our mandate as well, most conservation officers have become conservation officers to protect the environment, and to do that resource law enforcement work. I think I'll speak from my colleagues. The worst part of our job is the wildlife conflict response, because when that happens, usually everything else has failed. And unfortunately, at that time, that's when we have to put animals down. And that takes a huge emotional toll on us and our officers. And after doing it for 25 years, I'll be the first to put my hand up and just say that despite what you may read from any of the haters on any of the comment sections on certain websites, it's not something we do. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It does take a toll on our officers. So anyhow, I'm very passionate about this topic because it's close to home. The biggest thing is that prevention piece. It is preventable, and a lot of it is anyway. So I'm just very happy that this council is taking it seriously and moving forward to doing what you can to make your community safer. The other portion of is our vision statement. So our agency really has been leaning into more work with our partners and stakeholders. As you'll see when I talk about our area that we cover, we have a broad mandate, a broad area, not a lot of resources. So we really rely on our partners and working with both municipalities and stakeholders to achieve common objectives. So that's another reason I'm really happy to be here, to be able to speak with you regarding this. And just, I think we'll find that we're probably all coming from the same spot, the same page. Next slide. So my zone, the North Okanagan zone, it's quite large. It stretches from Lake Country in the south, just north of all the way to Micah Dam and Kinbasket Lake. And then we encompass and provide service to the Shuswap area from Sorrento eastward to Revelstoke and up towards the gap there. So it's a very large area. And with that, for coverage, we have 5 officers in total. So we have 3 based in Vernon. So myself and 2 officers that aren't here. And then we're fortunate to have 2 officers in Salmon Arm, which was an office that we reopened just under 2 years ago. So I have a couple of those officers there. So I'll just maybe introduce CEO Eric Tagoti.
Hello, everyone. A lot of familiar faces in this room. I spoke to you guys at Paris last year, and I was introduced to a lot of you before. So, yes, I'm still working on the San Leonardo office, and I'm thankful to have some help with me that started last year. And I'll introduce him. This is my colleague Spencer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Eric said, my name is Spencer Cunsley. I'm the newest conservation officer for the North Okanagan Zone. I just started here in September, so that was after 4.5 months going through the academy in with the Western Conservation Law Enforcement Academy in Blackfoot, Alberta. So yeah, absolutely thrilled to be here and looking forward to working with you and your community in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've also brought another friend. Our Salmon Arm officers share the office with DFO Salmon Arm. Been excellent to work with. We work very closely. So Fisher Officer Corey Morrison is with us today, so if I could just introduce him.
Do I have to?
Yeah, Corey Morrison. I run the office in Salmon Arm there as the acting field supervisor for fisheries and oceans. So I grew up in this area, so I know the area quite well. And I'm not going to take all their time and stuff like that, but I am going to leave my business cards out front so that if you guys need a contact, you'll have a contact in Salmon Arm. There is a lot of projects going on and stuff like that, so you guys may have questions. So might be able to answer questions in the future and stuff. So thank you for letting me be here today.
Thanks, Corey.
I think would probably be a good idea to talk about why, I think, and again, forgive me if I'm kind of stating obvious, but I think it's good to visit what's so important about the attractive management, why attractive management should be made a priority. So really it comes down to, honestly, the piece of it is public safety. Doing this over 25 years, and it's very well established, numerous studies throughout North America. Any type of habituation of wildlife, where they become accustomed to us, or we food habituated to non-natural food, nothing good comes of it. And that goes from everywhere from rats and small pest species that are vectors and bring diseases into our communities to dangerous carnivores that potentially run the risk of attacks. And although the little guy that the picture is very cute, that's a very bad situation, and I think we can all agree we don't want that in our communities. Because for one, he's not that's quite defensive, and for two, he's learning something that's very bad and it's not going to go anywhere from there. So that's at the root of it, where the importance is. And the good news is that again, everyone's generally on the same page here. Your community members want their communities to be safe. They want the bears and the wildlife to be safe as well. That's what we want. That's what everyone wants. It's just, all about us doing the maximum of what we can do to maximize that. The other issue is responsibility and even liability in some cases. When there's, low cost preventative measures that can be put into place, and if they're not undertaken and then something happens, and there's things like lawsuits in different jurisdictions, one of the first things that is scrutinized quite often is what's been done to prevent, obviously, the tragic event that's happened. So when other communities are making sure that attractants are secured and doing everything they can to prevent, and then when and maybe their neighboring community aren't doing that and have an incident like this, it really paints them in a bad light, and it really casts question on whether due diligence was actually undertaken. So that's another reason. And then, the final reason is really that it's our best option maybe for preventing conflict with wildlife is getting rid of the things that attract them to our communities first. What doesn't work is relocations. There's been numerous studies. I've done it a lot early in my career. The nuts and bolts of it is that the animals go where the food is, and they learn where the food is. And when you take them away where the food goes, they go back. There's other reasons that are a lot more technical and scientific than that, but it doesn't work if it didn't be doing it. So it's still a question that we get a lot, and we get from them informed a lot of scrutiny of why we don't just move the bears and to be clear, our agency isn't responsible to create predator-free bubbles around communities, and nobody necessarily, I think most people understand that, but unfortunately, quite a few people don't understand that, and they still, I guess, demand that for a better term, but at any rate, that's why it's important. So why are specifically bylaws necessary? Most people, I think, are on board that they want to do what they can to help bears, and we've noticed through the educational efforts and just not just us, but our partners and stakeholders and municipalities, that education is starting to have an impact, and people are starting to understand what the right thing is to do, and they want to do the right thing. But unfortunately, people being people, not everyone shares that, and I can share experience from the people I talk to daily in the wildland conflict season. I've talked to people that really get it and understand and are frustrated because their neighbors aren't seeing their garbage and they get it, to someone that's just completely on the other end of the spectrum that's floating me up, demanding me to be there because they shouldn't have to be worrying about a bear on their rural property on the river. So the good news again there is that most people will do the right thing without necessarily having a law or bylaw, but unfortunately there's a vast part of the population that really does need that, does need to be required or have some sort of consequences. So that's again where I think found that most of the municipalities have gone to attractive bylaws. Yeah. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this because I think the community, no one knows better the local issues in the community other than the community itself, and they don't want to preach state and but there's a couple of points that I think that are really important to acknowledge. One is your geography here. Just the way that the lakes are set up like fingers, and then you have the river and then the valley. Those are all travel and bear corridors, and as a result, this area always has had bears and always will have bears. And speaking to the relocation and the bear, and talking a lot about bears, but it kind of translates to all of it. Removing from the population is not going to work. But we get criticized, why don't we just move them or take them elsewhere? There's going to be more bears coming in too. And that's why some of the old school mentality with ranchers doesn't really work either, because more bears are going to come, especially in a community like this where you have all these natural corridors converging right on your community. So it's particularly safe with that geography to have these measures in place to prevent conflicts. The other challenge is, well, two things, I guess, the expansion of your community, but also the expansion of wildlife populations. We're seeing anecdotally increases of grizzly bear activity closer and closer in town. They can potentially create a little more of a conflict from a human safety conflict perspective as well. Another big issue that we see in your community is the not having, like some of the larger communities will have a standardized garbage collection where they can have control of the type of bins and that sort of thing. That's certainly a challenge for you because you're leaving it up to a bunch of different parties to make those types of decisions, and you can't control that. What you can do is control how those, how those receptacles are stored, and that's I see what your bylaws aimed at doing, which is excellent. That's what you do have control. The other big challenge, and it's not so much in this community, but a lot of the Okanagan is you have a lot of tourism, so you're getting big influxes during especially the conflict season with bears coming in, and they come from communities that they don't have to worry about bears or raccoons or anything, and that can be a challenge both for the tourists but also for the short-term rentals, strata properties that are trying to manage them, because they relinquish a little bit of control over what their actual tenants are doing. But again, that's something through your bylaws you can have a little bit of control to make sure that the right things are being done, and hold some accountability to those people that are running those short-term rentals and strata to ensure that that's happening. And then the same could be said for businesses as well. And really it comes down to that accountability for securing those attractants. And when I get into the bylaw, we'll talk about that more. I put cost on there as well, because that's usually where, when we're asking people to do something that's different, that's some of the first thing that comes up, well, what's this gonna cost, or, oh, it's too expensive, I can't do that. The good news there is the cost really is not really absorbent in this situation, particularly with things like protecting beeves and backyard chickens and things like that. Electric fencing is really fairly inexpensive, and when you look at the return on investment for, like, for example, a beehive is worth just $200 of fencing. The cost benefit really, that argument doesn't really stand. So cost, I'm not gonna say there isn't a cost with doing the right thing, because there will be, but it's really not that significant in most cases. So, onto the bylaw itself, having reviewed it, it's excellent. I see that a lot of thought has gone into its development, and you've done a very good job of combining what's kind of been some of the best out of some of the surrounding municipalities. I really like that it includes like inclusivity of all wildlife, including vectors. Some of the other communities have strictly focused on the large carnivores, and they're finding that they're having gaps now with deer or with rats. So it was really wise to include, in my opinion, the wildlife and the vectors in there. It's also quite consistent with other municipalities, and like I said, I think you've done a good job of combining the rest of them as well. I'd like to speak a little bit, there's terminology owners or occupiers, which is excellent because, and I'll just share with you my experience in investigating issues where there's been attractants left out. Quite often with rentals, short-term rentals, strata properties, especially trailer parks, there can be a big disconnect on responsibility between owners or the occupiers. And it works both ways. I've gone to properties where there's been issues where the occupier wanted to get a better system for storing their garbage, and either the strata wouldn't allow it or their landlord wouldn't support it. And that's the situation where it's important to be able to hold the owners accountable and give that to the bylaw, which is excellent. And the flip side of that is the occupiers as well, and that probably speaks more to your short-term rental type situations where you have maybe either a property owner or maybe a management company that is instructing the tenant that it's really important to use the bear resistant bin and not just put it outside. It's good to have that set up in your bylaw, but also just with communication with people in the community that are running these businesses, just on that, because there is a liability there as well. And I'm on the to do everything and follow the law, but also from potentially a diligence aspect of the law too, because pretty much anywhere in St. Louis potentially could be, a conflict there. Having worked here for 15 years, given that geography, I think it's fair to say that we've had conflict in this community annually, and that's not unusual for Shuswap community to have such. Just again going back to the fact that we're going to have a relationship. So yeah, that stuck out, and I'm glad that it was acknowledged in the bylaw. But I thought it was good to talk about just to share my own experience with sorting out who should be responsible, because like I say, it's not always cut and dry. So I really like the wording in there. Go to the next slide. The other thing that stuck out, and I understand the community is allowing backyard chickens. So those are both very high value attractants. They're literal bear magnets. Most or many of the communities that have allowed that required as a view in the bylaw for the protection. I like being specific about what protection is required, and specifically for bees and backyard livestock. I think electrified protection is probably the only real effective protection for them. I've seen types of really sturdily built wooden structures with 4x4 construction that after a small yearling bear decided wanted to get at the chickens. So With that as well, some municipalities, through other bylaws, may not allow electric fencing in their communities, or intended for electric. I didn't check whether yours was one, but I think it's important to allow electrified fencing in communities. The risk to the public, which is considered, is very low. It's not pleasant to grab the wire, but it's probably not. So that would be definitely a recommendation. And again, based on my experience, bears with their incredible sense of smell can smell hives and bees and garbage and chickens from literally miles away with under the right conditions, and they'll bring bears into a community that might not otherwise come in. Particularly those attractors may even bring bears that aren't necessarily garbage bears, particularly the chickens. Chickens are, and backyard bunnies, that's essentially a natural food source in the wild. So you might get some bears crossing the line to address those. Just go to the next slide, please. So the other thing, again, looking at the inclusiveness of the bylaw, I think it's very important as well to think about beyond the bylaw, having resources available for your communities to A, educate them, and B, to provide resources on where to get the things they need to be in compliance with the bylaw. It's one thing to say you have to protect your bees in your backyard bunnies and so forth, but I think it's important too to have links where you can direct them to where they can get the things they need, local resources as well. Well, I'd say BC is an excellent one. It's really has that built pretty much for you, but I think that any type of best practices or guides like that you can incorporate with your district communications that support your bylaw are very important. What else? Oh, yes, bins. So being that you don't have standardized bins, I've run into through the course of my career dealing with dangerous wildlife protection orders and dealing with stratas. Quite often, it'll come down to bins or containers provided by a contractor. And the argument is usually, well, that's what the contractor brought. And for dealing with those types of situations, I've also found where contractors that provide bins are able to access and different styles of bins. And specifically, if you know the dumpsters, they're quite popular. The dumpsters are really light plastic lids. That's nothing for a bear. So I've been to property that's been as simple as getting the contractor to replace it with a heavy duty steel bin, steel bins that was lockable. So it can literally be that simple, but it has to be something that you want. So I strongly recommend, particularly where your hotspots are, which is your trailer parks and your strata properties, requiring those type of those trailer communities to provide adequate bear resistance or wildlife resistant containers. And again, it may not be costly. Quite often, it's just a case of being specific with their supplier and just asking for it. Lastly, I'll talk a little bit about practicing what we preach, and not I'll just use myself as an example. So being a conservation officer, I live in a community that oddly enough doesn't just, the bears don't seem to come into my community. They should. We have garbages, and maybe my neighbors just know how to put the garbage after them, but I make sure I practice what I preach. My garbage doesn't go out the day before, because if I'm telling people the importance of doing that, I have to be the person leading by example. And that goes obviously for you as a district as well. So things like your own municipal garbage containers, making sure that they're accessible. I realize, there's always the gold standard of where one can be and as far as costs and everything, but I'd encourage you as you're replacing your bins and just thinking forwardly as you can, try to keep upgrading just step by step moving forward and keeping conflict in mind, and it will go a long ways over the long haul and making your community a lot safer. I really appreciate the time here today. I'd like to say that, like Chris said, I'm always available to do anytime, not just regarding this topic or any, just feel free to reach out. I really enjoy the opportunity to work closely with municipalities. We'll be pretty quick about that this time.
Thank you, Terry. Council, any questions? Councillor Bushel?
Through the chair, yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Great presentation. It was great meeting everybody again. I don't have much about the bylaw. I mean, the bylaw's done very good job, and I appreciate all your comments on it. I was gonna ask if, because I've been out of the snowmobile club for a while, how's the caribou situation? Have we had the snowmobilers behaving in the caribou areas?
Yeah, actually, for Eric actually has been running our project for the Okanagan, so I'll just
Just briefly, yeah, just.
Yes, thank you. Around Sigamus, we haven't had any issues reported to us so far. And actually Spencer and one of our other officers that's not here today, Tanner, they have already got out to Queast. You guys don't want to try this once so far. We have had some issues in Rostock, which is primarily where the bulk of our caribou are and where our most of our efforts are spent in patrolling to make sure people are out of those areas. I will be out there all weekend with Family Day, to ensure that people are staying out of those areas, and we'll also be flying. We unfortunately did a budget cut this year for what we usually get from the Caribou Recovery Project. So that is put a bit of a damper on the patrols that we can do. But rest assured, if there are reports of riders interfering in the closed area in Queast, that is something that we are prepared to deal with and deal with. But so far, from what we've seen, people have been abiding by it so far this year. We'll see if that continues into further seasons, but.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe and Councillor Bailey.
No, I didn't have any comments. Thank you.
Councillor Rich. Councillor Rich.
Am I on yet?
Oh, there.
Can you hear me?
are.
Can you hear me now? I just want to say to Terry, Spencer, and Eric for coming out. They work in our community a lot, and we don't see them a lot, but they are actually out here, and they know Sigamus well, and they're protecting us very well. I, of course, support this. This has been so well written, and that's our staff also. And I think there's a way that we can get this bylaw put in where it's still affordable for our community. But I think one of the questions I would have for Terry is, so tell me the difference between 30 or 40 years ago. So the bears, tell me how the bear numbers are changing and why we see more bears in our community now than perhaps I did when I was a kid.
That's a good question. There's probably a few reasons, and I'm not going to get into the biology of it because I'm not a biologist, but I'll speak to the grizzly bears because that's the more obvious one, I suppose. The grizzly bear hunt had been discontinued a few years ago now, and being apex predators, they don't have a lot that eats them, or nothing other than humans. So they're in the anecdotally, and again, I'm not a biologist, so I can't comment on specific populations, but what I can say is anecdotally, we're seeing an increase in the amount of conflict in the numbers, which would probably make sense just based on the lack of hunting. As well, black bears are a hunted species, and for whatever reason, even though hunting numbers of hunters aren't necessarily going down, the actual hunting of black bears has gone down somewhat. So I think that could be part of it as well. And then the other part of it is honestly, we also create some good bear habitat in our communities when we don't do the right things. And you know, if you look at particularly a lot of parts of the southern Okanagan where it's very dry and there's not a lot of natural forage for bears. And then they come into our communities where it's irrigated in their pollution and things like that. You know, we can artificially sustain higher populations of wildlife that would normally be out there. So it's complicated and there's many factors, but those probably will do probably put my finger on two primary ones. I think those would be probably my top five, I would say.
Thanks, Terry. Councillor Bailey.
I guess, do we have any stats or you know, on how many problems we've had over the last several years?
Yeah, I normally would build that into our presentation, but they've done with we've been upgrading our systems and we've gone through 2 different systems. We've just rolled out our 3rd in the last 3 years. And they've not had very good backwards compatibility with stats. So I don't have good numbers for you. What I will say as well with the numbers, they're a little misleading anyways. Another trend that I didn't mention earlier that I've certainly seen in my career is the number of people that will actually call the RAP center, the public in general, people who are really more tolerant of bears and wildlife. And there's more, I think social media has really increased that as well. I think where people are more likely to reach out to their community members in social media more about the presence of the bear, and which is great in a lot of ways because it promotes self monitoring of attractants and awareness and that as well. But at the same time, though, there's I think I've seen that we're getting less calls, and I'm hearing it from people as well that don't want to call us because they're afraid we're just going to come shoot the bear if they call it in, which isn't the case.
Yeah.
I mean, 95% of our calls we're telling people, put your garbage away, the neighbors put the garbage away. But there is that perception. So our statistics probably aren't really reflective of what we're happening. And we have some communities that are so tolerant that they won't necessarily call to report a bear unless it's gotten really, really bad, where the bear's entering homes, breaking into cars. And so that's a bit of a concerning behavior too, because quite often we don't even find out we have a problem in an area until it's way too late, and the bear's really posing a significant risk. I do expect though, the next year, our new system is excellent, and I think if I was here next year, I'd be able to give you some pretty good statistics.
Follow up?
Since I guess we're talking about this at committee of the whole too, about the bylaw, I'm not a huge fan of putting bylaws in place that I think we can actually achieve the results through education and a very strong educated public. I think the public is getting educated about it. You know, I've run 2 businesses in town. We have those commercial bins that everybody has. We've never had any problem at all. We're right behind, actually, a trailer park is right behind us as well. So, I mean, there's stuff that sure we can do. It comes down to the cost and the benefit of it, and can we achieve that through the education piece of it? We've had some issues with bylaws and keeping up with the bylaws that we currently have and staffing those appropriately, and maintaining some of the rules we already have in place. So I'm not saying no, but I do think that an educated approach to this would be better than actually putting in a strict bylaw. I have concerns about the electrified fence route. I have, there's a few concerns, and I guess if it comes back to council, we can discuss it. But I mean, no one's going to argue that we don't need to have an educated public on this. I do think sometimes though, rules don't equal, results. Governments have a tendency, hey, we're going to hit you with a rule, and then we anticipate that you'll actually follow it. Nah, that's not necessarily true all the time. And I do think that we need to be careful that if we put rules into place, we better have the capacity in order to do this. And I do question of whether we do have the internal capacity to continue to add bylaws and then actually enforce them. Because we have a pretty active bylaw already, and in some cases, it takes some time to even follow up on the rules that we have in place now. So anyways, I look forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, no, and I'm obviously quite biased because I do law enforcement.
Right, yeah.
I'm dealing with the people that don't care and they need.
But the education doesn't work.
Yeah, that's who we deal with at the end of the day, and that's at the end of the day what your bylaws are going to be for, because there are going to be some people, despite your education efforts, that just don't care and they need an incentive, and that's the pure and simple reason for it. And the other reason is, at the end of the day, do you want to, like, in the last 3 years, I think pretty much every municipality in the North Okanagan and most of the Shuswap has adopted bylaws, core traffic bylaws, very similar to this. And do you want to be the community that doesn't and has a fatality? what's that gonna look like? I mean, those are the questions you should probably be thinking about, and I'm not trying to doomsday say or anything, that's the reality of it. And again, I don't mean to, I appreciate your.
Well, it is a bit of a doomsday. I mean, that is a bit of it, really, yeah.
Literally to fatalities where, and I've worked through my career in communities that did not have anything, brought them in, and I've seen firsthand huge reductions in the numbers. It works. That's why I wouldn't be pulling my officers out here to preach to the importance of this if on a busy day, if I didn't honestly believe it. And not only that, I've seen it, so.
But let me be clear. I'm not saying to do nothing. I mean, that's, it's not an either
Yeah.
your way or no way, right? What I'm saying is there's different ways to do it. And I don't think anyone's sitting around here, including me, saying that you don't want to have some education, you don't want to tackle that issue. It's a question of how do we do it effectively as a government? I guess that's council's decision. And I just question whether this is the right way. There's some things in there that I think would lead some people in the community to be concerned about. Electrified fences would be one of them. Whatever we do, I think it just has to be a broader consultation in the community as well, and then figure out what the right approach for us would be.
That's right. And just to Councillor Bailey's point, I mean, some people, whether there's bylaws, if there's bylaws in place or not, they're still not going to follow them, right? So you've got those people that you're dealing with as well. If you can't educate them, they're still not going to follow the bylaws because we've asked them to. So, I mean, yeah, there's a bigger, agree, education's a big part of this and bylaws are a big part of this. So there's just has to be, as Councillor Bailey said, a happy medium. Councillor Beach, then Councillor Rich.
Thank you, through the chair. I don't agree with Councillor Bailey. I think that the bylaws provide the education. They lay it out very clearly. And yes, you have to remind people, but it is the way you educate them. And the fear of being fined, if we make the fines, are the fines laid out?
Yeah, it's in there.
Someone, it's in there, so we can't sort of determine that, but I think that the fines have to be enough that people will stop and think about how they're managing their waste. And yeah, I think this is the education that you need for the public, because there are lots of people who will learn from this, and there are always, like the mayor says, just ignore it until someone finds them, and then maybe they'll listen. So,
Councillor Rich.
Can't tell if she's talking.
Councillor Rich. That little mute button, it's like a pain sometimes. Are you there?
Am I in?
There you go.
Am I here?
Okay.
There we go. I'm gonna speak to two things. One, I'm gonna ask Terry to explain how the bylaw helps the COs. So that we're not over regulating. What we're doing is setting up a system that when the COs need to step in, we're already backing them. And then, so I'm going to keep going and then I'll let Terry hop in. But I think the other thing is people are really scared of electric fences and they know nothing about them. So we're not, little children aren't hanging off wires, getting electrocuted and fried. If you have a chicken coop for about $200, you can buy fence from no longer PV Mark because we're losing them, but pick a different company and you run just a little fence around, and bears and raccoons that get zapped, what happens is they leave and they don't come back to the property, and it's huge. So what we're doing is we're actually preventing that. And you got to remember, Sycamus always works their bylaws on a complaint basis. So we're not running around attacking everyone that wants backyard chickens or bunnies, or their garbage isn't stabilized. But when we have an area that isn't stabilized, that we can say, you know what, your garbage is attracting bears, which has happened last year. And again, between Terry and Eric, maybe they can speak to that. I know a property, we won't name names, but where the COs didn't have backing from our bylaws. So we've always worked on a complaint basis with our bylaws. And I think what this does is we educate first, but then when we have an issue, we set our COs up to come in and deal with the issue. So back to you, Terry and Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that because I didn't really cover that part very well. When it comes down to solid waste management practices, that's done at the municipal government level. We can't tell your community how to do their garbages, or I'd probably say, okay, you have to have better resistant bins or whatever. That's something that Councillor was, I mean, that's your decision to make as council on that. You've been given that responsibility. So, but how that helps us, it's not really about just helping us. You have to decide what is best for your community first and foremost. But how it helps us absolutely is we can't make that decision for you. We can just provide you the best, information possible, encourage you to do based on our experience what we know works and what other communities are doing. But that is, you're right, ultimately your decision to make, because we don't have any jurisdiction on your solid waste management. But how it helps us, I mean, you just looked at our map, we have a massive area to look after. We don't just use wildlife conflict. Every hour we use wildlife conflict is an hour a day. It's not so it's yeah, we very, very, very much rely on municipalities being good, good stakeholders and caring and doing the right things for you. So I don't know if that answers your question, Councillor Rich. Is that on, I guess?
Yeah, that's muted again.
Just a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Rich. Anything?
Oh,
I do have a couple of questions just off topic, just constitutional questions. Whose jurisdiction is foreshore?
Well, that's fairly complicated. It depends in what capacity. And
Like on the foreshore, if someone's taking a quad or a truck and driving down the foreshore, whose jurisdiction is?
It doesn't overlap, and it depends on what the concern is. If it's an anadromous water body, meaning that there's salmon in it, DFO has primary jurisdiction. Say that?
Yeah, there's 3 organizations that will handle foreshore. So you've got your natural resource officers, you're gonna have conservation officers, you're also gonna have the fishery officers. So all 3 organizations, we all work together. Quite often we jointly go out to areas to take a look and stuff. So depending on what the activity is on the foreshore, will determine which agency is gonna take.
Okay, so if Eric, for example, is taking the boat out and he's going out to see what's happening out on the lake and he's driving past, backing down, and then right there on the foreshore, there's a couple of trucks going down the beach. Does he have jurisdiction of that at that point, or is he?
Absolutely, Eric, that would fall under the Water Sustainability Act, which is a criminal offense for having equipment below the high water mark of the lake.
Okay, no, that's fair.
And the Horse Range Practice Act, it's a really long section when you write it out, but essentially it would fall under as well, mud bogging. So if somebody is going into an area that's environmentally sensitive and they have an ATV or a side-by-side or a truck of some sort, and they're donuts or even just driving back and forth numerous times, then there are matrices or not matrices, but legislation that to enforce that can handle that as well.
And the natural resource officers also would look after the Water Sustainability Act there as well, so.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Thank you for that. And we do have still on Mara Lake, we do have some houseboats that squad on the west side there. And I'm not certain where their pump out station is. So just want to red flag that again.
So that's a fourth agency. So they are becoming more active up in the area here. I know they do have a patrol plan for this area this year already. So houseboats and stuff like that definitely would still get flagged. So you would report it into the same, like that's the ORR line. We sort of record a report, and it will make its way over to ECCC that way. And if I know about it as well, then I'll let them know as well. So if you report it into that ORR line, it will come to me or it'll go to the officers in Kamloops. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks.
So, and I can provide, I can drop it off another day there, but we do have a working year water information sheet that we provide to the public. I quite often give it to the regional districts or whoever else is in the area and stuff like that. You can hand it out to the public and it basically will kind of identify the steps that they need to take to seek both federal and provincial approvals if they are wanting to do work in and around the foreshore. So if any lakes or streams or water bodies.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just to the caribou point, and I think Gord, you can probably speak to this. I think that there was just a campaign done by the sled club that is about stewardship and teaching their riders and you know, being very mindful of the wildlife and the areas that they're not allowed to snowmobile in. So, and I think that I saw that somewhere just recently. So I think that's currently going out. So.
Yeah, the snowmobile clubs are very aware of the importance of these closures, and they actually are in full support of vast majority of the clubs as well as the Snowmobile Federation. They understand that it can become just a blanket closure if it is, you know, continually abused. Even for our perspectives as well, when we had a meeting with the CRP back in February and January there, and they even told us when we're out doing these flights and doing these patrols, if we see no sled tracks of people going into closures, but if we see fresh caribou tracks, they've actually told us like stop them to give them, you know, the respect. And because before they used to, that's how they used to count them, as they fly around in helicopters. And even when we're doing our flights, they say, you know, if you see, unless you have a report, number one, that there are people that are violating the closure, or you see fresh tracks going into a closure, if you see caribou on the flight, back off and allow them to just go to a different area, basically. So the understanding of the importance of not disturbing these animals is very high, and it's very good for us to see when we're doing these enforcement patrols. And then the other thing I'll say as well is, as much as we do get a lot of people that are misinformed or uneducated or just simply want to ride these closures, I would say that last year when we did our project at Revelstoke, two of the people that we caught were not even from BC that were in closure. And in that area, I can speak to, it is very common to see, you know, Alberta license plates, Ontario license plates, Manitoba license plates from the States. People come from all over North America to ride in our backyard in wintertime. So, you know, certainly the people in British Columbia, I'd say the vast majority of the people do that. And these closures have been there for a very long time. So it's very nice for us to see.
That's good to hear. Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, Eric, I've been away from the administration part of the club. Is the Bourne Glacier a complete closure now?
So my understanding is they, and if you give me your email, I'll reread the email that I just got from Aaron Reed. But I believe that they installed a couple more signs on the FSR going up to the Bourne that also is closed now. When they put that through last February, I believe, I think there was some hiccups with getting the wording right in the amendments to that section of the Wildlife Act. So for last season, they weren't closed. They still wanted us to keep an eye on it. But yeah, I'll touch base with Aaron, but I believe that is closed this year. And there's sign, unless someone's taken them down, which would have happened, but there are signs stating that now on the approach up to where Bourne is. But give me your contact info and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. All right. You guys, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all that information with us. We really appreciate it.
Anytime, like I say, just feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah, we see Eric quite often, as a matter of fact. Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Just moves to finance update. Carly, thanks.
All right, hello, everybody. So this presentation is definitely a bit overdue. What I'm gonna take you guys through is where we're going, how projected from both the tourism perspective and the economic development budget. These are both somewhat fluid documents. I'll take you through some of the information on the tourism side of things, and the relations we have issues about tourism. When I give my quarterly update in a month, when I see you guys again, it might change a little bit. So the information that you guys have, the total budget that we're working for with 2025 key projects is around $222,000. We finally added a part-time staff to help with the administrative load so that I can continue working on big ideas and implementation and get the administrative support that we have been lacking. So I have a staff member named Brenna Horton who started last week. She's with the DOSDC for 2 days a week. So she's working in office Wednesdays and Thursdays. And she's on a contract position, so that'll go until December 31st, and then we'll reevaluate after that. The standard projects that we've done year over year, they are referenced in here: training and industry development, also layers into community engagement and stakeholder engagement. So we're looking at some of the industry courses that we've talked to business owners about needing, and a lot of it does come back to redoing our Canva Advanced and really looking into AI for automation and efficiency purposes. So I'm working with a couple of companies to look at the prices that we can provide both in person and over Zoom for our owner operators that are looking to get more versed on what AI can do for their businesses with the advancements, and they're happening very quickly. Looking at, chatbots and automation purposes for websites, data and research purposes. So really making sure that our business owners feel comfortable with the implementation of AI, but also just driving that awareness of it. We have some conferences I'll be heading to. These two happen every year. They're a great networking opportunity. I'm going to Vancouver, in March for the BC Tourism Industry Conference, and then the Thompson Okanagan Summit happens every October. So a large portion of our budget is always allocated to marketing. So this is looking at media, advertising, and production, our website and social media platforms, collateral production and distribution, travel media relations and travel trade, and content development. So again, I've sent you guys, I believe you've all had a chance to look at the 2025 MRDT tactical plan, which really outlines what these projects in depth. It takes a look at what these projects all covered. Again, some of those things will change with pausing of Shuswap tourism and the programs that were supposed to be implemented right away. I'm currently working on the MRDT 5-year renewal application. So this year is our repeal year. March 1st is when it's due to Destination BC. So we're working through right now, getting our final letters of supports, our draft plans, our data, et cetera, and building out that plan, which will be presented to Destination BC for review. And then any questions will come back, we'll adjust that. We were selected we had put in a 2-year bid for the UCI Pump Track Canadian Qualifier, and out of the Canadian bids, which I'm not sure who else bid, I know Vernon and Kamloops last year at our event were talking about putting in a bid. We were selected because of rider and media preference for our location. So the Pump Track is still something that people are raving about and coming to Sicamous to, look at planning their vacations around it. So we're really excited. We did put in a 2-year bid, and after that, the goal is to hand it off to local community groups to potentially support them in putting in their own bids, so that the financial obligation from a tourism perspective about drawing that event here will now shift over to a user group if they'd like to continue it. But we are actively working on creating a consortium of pump track locations that we can do a mini circuit on. So that will help our growing athlete base, which is quite significant in Sicamous, have different avenues to go and test out other tracks and take what they've learned and, support other communities while getting those communities to support. So that will happen on June 7th. So I'm just waiting on Velo Solutions to send out their official media release that we will send out. I've already spoken to our local media to get that ready to go, but I'm already getting questions from past participants about when we're going to open up our registration site. So last year, as you remember, we had about 55 athletes that ended up competing that day. So our goal this year is to increase that to about 80 to 100 athletes. We feel that the June 7th date is more attractive for Sycamoose. There's a little bit less going on, so that will help us in terms of measuring more of that economic impact of bringing all those people into town. We are competing with the one ball tournament on that same weekend, but it's a smaller ball tournament. So Finlayson Park will be very busy that weekend. The town should be very busy that weekend, which is a bonus for an early June weekend in Sycamoose. Destination and product experience development. These are definitely, as I mentioned, fluid plans that adapt as projects progress. So we've invested in things like the BC Bird Trail, the Geo Tour, the real-time cameras, 2 that are going to go online here in the spring that go up and down the channel. And then our bike culture development. So we always put a line item of money against the pump track, the rail trail, and the Owl's Head Mountain Bike Park, and that will carry year over year depending on the progress of those particular projects, so that we can ensure that we are driving the right awareness, but also making sure that we have enough money so when we can pull the trigger, we have the marketing dollars to promote those particular areas. Our priority looking at the Owl's Head Mountain Bike Park and where that is going to be heading. For digital innovation, we've invested in 2 kiosks for this year that we're going to test out. We've done extensive consultation with Revelstoke and the digital kiosks that they've had, as well as Salmon Arm and the challenges they've had with their digital kiosks and where they're going. Both locations really like the mobile option for their user groups to utilize at farmers markets and events. The biggest uptick on the digital usage, it has been at their arenas for hockey tournaments. So they're finding that they're able to track stats that show, that's where their usage is highest, and they're looking at restaurants, retail, and future experiences. So people are utilizing those assets to plan future events while they're waiting in between games, et cetera. I think that that'll be a location that we'll hopefully have for the end of this hockey season, probably not likely, but we'll definitely be there for hockey schools and then events that are happening around town and then into next season. And then when we look at our special projects and event sponsorship, again, as I mentioned, the Geo Tour, it's their 30th year, I think, and they've got a bunch of different activities happening. We've been selected to host a community event as our Geo Tour has a ton of visitation, and we are collecting favorite points, which means that as geocachers from around the world that do come and use it, they like how our cache is set up or the location that the cache is located. They give it a favorite point, and that is collected on a global database. And Sycamoose is starting to trend with every cache that we add that collects these. We're getting more marketing put against us for our location. We are adding another 10 very highly there's a high degree of difficulty caches that are coming up. So that's going to actually extend people out further into area E and along the water. And what that does again is that promotes that overnight visitation. So people can't just do our tour in one day. So if they're going to be going and planning their trips to do tours across Canada or coming in from the US, then they're more likely to want to capture it all and do it all at once. So then that is where they start to book their overnight stays. And we've got a visitor guide, so we're just adapting the visitor guide because we do have an overstock from last year. So that our advertisers actually got 2 for the price of 1 in their advertising because this should carry us through. If we do need to do a reprint, we will. Again, we've signed a new MOU, so Shuswap Tourism has been removed from the BC Bird Trail, and it's Salmon Arm MacDeb and the DOSDC that are going to be managing our own Shuswap outpost. Again, birding is one of those stats that we've learned it's increasing in terms of visitation, participation, and it's one of the Destination BC's higher grossing community involvement piece. So there's more communities coming on board to be part of this outpost on their main website. So if you haven't had a chance, they've got a wonderful app. They've got great resources that show the over 300 species of birds that we have in the Shuswap, and it's just a matter of marketing it and building that program year over year. We had looked at, so some of the Shuswap tourism projects that I am working through, and Sarah's been great in connecting the dots for me, but we had the golf trail package where our accommodators will be, we've pushed it out to our accommodators to look at a stay and play package. So if anybody's not familiar with the golf trail pass, in the Shuswap, we have 5 courses that you can play, 1 round of each course for $329. So it's about $110 savings by buying the golf pass to go and hit all of those. So we want to package things out, we're promoting the stay in Sycamoose, and then you can play the courses. All of the accommodators have been made aware that they can put together a package, and we'll be adding a specific page to our Explore Sycamoose website that we'll be driving the traffic to. And I've been working with Kevin at Mara Hills, who's one of the golf courses on this pass, to figure out collaborative marketing efforts so that we can push the sale of this pass and bring people to Sycamoose to actually stay here and potentially hit, you know, even Sycamoose in the 2 Salmon Arm courses. We were working on a Broom Bridge comms marketing plan, and I'm sure you've seen it, that it is referenced in our plan, but we are going to shift from that because there was a cooperative project that we were going to get DBC co-op funding through all of the tourism entities within the Shuswap. That's changing a bit, so I will update you guys how that's going to look. So far, what has been produced by the DOS has been amazing, taking the information from the Broom Bridge project and pushing it out. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the most efficient way to take that information and just market it out so that we're not confusing the consumer with so many different ways to try and figure out where that information is, but spending our money to promote to our visitor traffic in one location. So whether that's going to be Drive BC, that's the post that keeps going out that talks about the 4-week plan. I think that it makes more sense in terms of not confusing people by multiple points of trying to figure out where to drive them. So I will continue to work with Sarah and Captain on how that looks. The beach cameras, we've got, we had great traction last year. Again, as I mentioned, we're adding 2 more beach cameras on the channel. Both of them will be located at Reds, pointing at the bridge and down towards Mara. And then another one of the projects is the farm stand trail. So if any of you have seen, they had invested a significant amount in getting the Culinary Institute of BC had created a strategic plan because they said that farm stand tours was going to be the next winery tour. So Shuswap Tourism, we're just working between us and Salmon Arm ECDEV to look at if there's an opportunity to still capitalize on the funding that's happened. We've supported a small scale farm stand even before they launched the official Shuswap one. So we have about 7 producers in the Sycamoose and Area E that we did a brochure that's at the visitor center printout, and our local farm stands are, they're seeing traction from that, and we were hoping to get on the larger plan as a tourism experience. So that again will be an update one. And then the other ones are just the Shuswap Tourism website, the Film Commission and print guides, just wondering where that is gonna, who's gonna manage that? Are we losing those assets, or how do we reinvest, or do we have to allocate funding towards that? So on the next slide, you'll see that was the budget. So this program and this budget was submitted to Destination BC for approval on November 30th, and it was approved. Again, it's a simple call to Destination BC if we are making any significant changes and where we're allocating the tourism funding. And then on the third slide, you'll see we are still missing 1 month of 2024 MRDT revenue, and Tom is going to break out what the OAP numbers are for November. But as you can see, if you look from 2023 down through 2021, we collected $13,000 in the month of November, which is, unheard of when we're looking at 5,000, 2,000 the years before. So I'm curious to see where the OAP numbers come in, and we all know that's when construction came into town. So is that, looking at November, if that's the most significant thing, then this bridge is, we can start to measure that economic impact of the bridge construction workers already being in town. Any questions on tourism?
Councillor Beach.
Through the chair, I'm just curious. I see the travel and the conference here that you do go to other places. How do we compare in the kind of stuff that we're doing in economic development here to some of the other, when you go to a conference, what are they talking about for economic development? Like it's very tourism oriented is what I'm feeling, right? But we need more than that here. So I'm just curious as to what you see at these conferences.
Yeah, so through the chair, a lot of the stuff at the conference is showing, like this one in particular is talking about the whole tourism BC industry as a whole. So what they do is they give us sort of that top level approach from BC, Destination BC, and what their mandates and where they're pushing programming. And then as regional and community DMOs, we take that information and we try and figure out where we lie in that, so that we're following what the overall project or experience direction is, to be able to capitalize on that already, the already marketing spend. So when they're talking about seasonal dispersion, that's a big buzzword right now. So they're trying to figure out ways to educate the visitors that they should be coming in our shoulder season months because there's less traffic, there's, cheaper prices, more affordable opportunities in there. So then it comes down to when what you're speaking of what are the other communities doing? They're playing into their own strengths. So we have sledding is a huge strength of ours in the mountains. We have the hiking and the biking in the trails that are being developed and the ones that are already existing. And we have our summer houseboating, lake access, river kayaking. So a lot of the information coming from there is what are you doing in your community that's playing to your best strengths so that you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but you're building on those experiences. And from an economic development standpoint, it's how can we attract those types of businesses and owners that support the types of experiences that we have. So we're starting to, seed ourselves as a bike community. So what we're working on from an economic development standpoint is now we're starting to reach out to our contacts and other businesses in the bike industry and saying, this could be a really advantageous place for you to set up, a pop-up shop, or as our commercial spaces are being built, as we start to see what the available commercial spaces are going to be, that's when we know we can say we've got, 4,000 square feet on Main Street that's slated to be built. Perhaps there's a good spot with Main Street traffic for those types of businesses to come. Does that answer?
Can I? Yeah, I guess I know this is fantastic what you do based on tourism. I guess what I'm thinking is that are there other conferences, other places that present how do you attract year-round industry to your community? So that you have not only take advantage of our natural beauty here, assuming that we always have a lake, functional lake, and the natural beauty, but are there opportunities to learn about how we actually attract different kinds of industry that isn't so dependent on our local, well, it's always dependent on our location and access and our central access to everything, but the beauty and sort of the beauty of the lake and the forest and stuff. Do you ever see conferences that are keyed to communities that don't already have a beautiful setting, and that's what you're working with? I mean, I know we do, and I love what I see here. I'm just curious because I see that we're dependent on climate change and we're dependent on a healthy lake. And I'm thinking, are there ways we can tap into other, Mike is an example of an industry, right? He's an example of a year-round incredible industry. And that's great, but there probably are more. And I just wonder if you ever see conferences that are based that way.
Yeah, through the chair. So what I presented right there was specifically sort of, I wear two hats. So this one was specific. This one we're looking at like what you're talking about. That's where on the next slide, we go to the BCEDA Economic Summit in May every year. And that's a great place because they'll split the rooms into, communities under 10,000 and even have breakout groups of communities under 5,000, where we start to compare notes and what we're doing and how, we can take best practices from industry attractions. We look at, we don't have natural gas. We are landlocked by, we've got lakes and highways and ALR. So we take those, I sort of make a list of all the challenges we have, and then we'll sit down at places like the BCEDA and to go through those types of challenges and see sort of the best practices from other communities. So I would say that one is specifically focused on BC communities, which is wonderful. And that's where I would find out information like that and see how we measure up with the projects that we're doing from an economic development, industry attraction. More so we focus on sort of retention and expansion because we do see that is, a lot of times that brings more economic benefit to the community versus trying to go after a bunch of outside businesses. So we never remove the attraction side off of it. We've created some great assets that help with that aspect, but our focus from a DevCorp side is definitely looking at that expansion of our local businesses if there's that opportunity.
Thank you.
Councillor Bushel.
That's through the chair. Thank you, Carly, for the tourism presentation. I got a few questions. Looking forward to that pump track event. That's going to be great. And it's different time of the year, right? You said June? Yeah, that'll be great. I just was wondering, and I know we talk about it a lot about somehow trying to engage the hotels. And I did have a call with the owner of the Best Western the other day, and he's really concerned about the numbers. So, just focusing on, the way short-term rentals has been going and also the hotels. Is there any way we could kind of regroup with the hotels again and see if we can get, I know the owners can't go on the board, but it's, just really need to get the owner or their senior staff or whoever they have on their general managers on the boards to keep that going, because he's really concerned about the numbers. So I said I'd bring it up about that. That's one of them. And then the other one was the destination product experience development. You got 35,000, and then down below you have 32,000, and a lot of the same items on there. But that the pump track, I was on a tour, I was a meeting yesterday at Trails meeting yesterday, and they're planning on Shuswap Trail Alliance is planning on having it open. Our Owlhead Bike Park is going to be open in July, 1st of July. So, really focusing some money to figure out how we can do the right advertising for that and get people aware that it's open for the summer and get bikers here and all that. So that was just one of the things I was thinking about and wondered on some of those items like the bird trail and the geocache and things like that. What's the dollar value we don't have to do it today, but break it down at another time for me of what we spend on those little items? Because I know the bulk is like 35,000 or 32,000, but what would we spend on geocache, or what would we spend on the bird trail funding and advertising and stuff like that? So I don't know. I just thought I was concerned that we're doubling up there, and I just didn't know.
Through the chair, that was an editing mistake on my part.
Okay.
I didn't see that I copy and pasted and probably should have reviewed that, but I can get you those numbers.
Yeah.
I do in my MRDT plan at the bottom where I budgeted out things, do have a line item.
Okay.
So geocaching is about $15,000, and that's for all of the marketing, advertising, the renewal.
Mhm.
So to be part of the tour, there's a monetary amount there, and then the development of the caches.
Oh, yeah.
That'll also within that. So yeah, I can definitely get that breakdown for you as I was reading, and I'm like, oh, I did double up. I so apologies on that.
And, because of my background with the snowmobile industry, and Colleen and I, we did a lot of tours when we started to get the MRDT into the community and get the hotels on side. Maybe it's, I don't know if we can get them in the same room again, or maybe we go around and do another tour again and sit down with the owners and, we really have to take a look at that and see.
Sure. The conversations and the outreach to the hotels happens all the time. Where I found is, we changed our terms of reference for our tourism advisory committee to accommodate them. So we don't just have one seat. We actually have an accommodator seat that any accommodator can come. We've left it open-ended so that they can, send a representative or attend themselves. The challenge has been we haven't had any accommodators make the time to come to any of the TAC meetings. They've sent, we've had staff from the Pines that have come to relay things. We just held on Monday, I'd sent out 48 invites for a stakeholder engagement around, our 5-year tourism plan, and sent it out to all of the accommodators. And unfortunately, we didn't get any uptake. Vic from Monashi has, he's between him and Rob Couch, who's now working for Rakesh, are probably the two properties and Tracy and Danny, that I get the most response back from any of the updates and then feedback and, the visitor guide deliveries and stuff. So there was an opportunity to spend some money to have the entire accommodation sector join the BC Hotel Association through a membership that I was going to purchase.
Mhm.
And through my outreach with them, they actually individually have come, 3 of the 7 properties that we have come back to me and said, we'd rather finally sit down together in a room. So we're actually now making some traction because they are seeing that there is a need for them to start talking and working together. And although they can't afford to subscribe to the STR data, just the Best Western and Super 8 being the larger chains are able to afford the $650 a month fee to participate. Now our smaller providers or accommodators are wanting to work together. So it is a positive story, all of the outreach that I've done for this new MRDT application renewal. They're starting to see the value and maybe talking together and being at the table. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's an important thing and I think they realize how important it is for their voices to be heard because they're the front lines, especially coming from their staff. So when I go into their businesses and visit with them one-on-one, that's the first question is, how are you doing for guides? And what are your guests saying? Where can we better market things? And from our meetings that we had here, we, took the importance of the package development very seriously. And we're looking at all the different ways that we can, support them by posting those packages right on our website and pushing those out and then bringing in. So with the stay and play, as soon as we have the accommodators on, the word is going to go out to our retailers and our restaurants. Do you want to add something in? Because if we can keep it all consolidated in that one spot, we have the ability to better market it out versus trying to link people to each individual website is creating that and controlling that messaging that we can push out, especially as we're doing our US marketing push for, showing them your dollar is really great. Let's get you guys down here.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things before this will come back to finance committee, so I won't really deal with too many of the budget items, but it'd be nice to have it broken down a little bit more for our budget discussion, just from my point of view, because some of them are pretty big buckets. Like, for example, there's some questions I would have around what is bike culture development, snort, and what are those budget items in there? Things like that. I mean, one of the things that does strike me is the lack of a winter focus. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in June and summer. I mean, if I take a look at just special projects, right? Geoclass, GeoTour, yeah, that could be spring and fall, but it's also going to be something pretty heavy in summer. BC Bird Trail, same thing. The beach cameras, obviously, it's summer focus. And then the farm stand tour too, could be also spring and fall. But I don't see, like, and we talked about this at our meeting, is that there's certain times in Sycamoose that we know when people are already here, right? Summer is one of them, winter is the other. So I'd really like to have some more, I guess, thought around what are we doing with winter and where are the resources we're putting there? Because I think there's a lot more we can take advantage of in the winter. And I'd like to just, I mean, maybe something to think about is more resources there. If it's not this year, then certainly into the hopper for next year. And then just the other thing is, I think more advertising, more marketing in terms of the overall spend, right? I was a little surprised to see the pump track there again, because I thought it was a one year thing. I mean, it's a great event, don't get me wrong, but everything that MRDT should do is heads and beds, right? More people in the hotels on multi-night stays. So if we had some data from last year where that pump track actually did contribute directly to X number of room nights, that would be nice to know. But 30,000, that's a hefty price tag, right? Like, that's a good chunk of the budget. So we want to make sure anything we do is going back to actually filling up those hotel rooms. So I guess those are just my general comment, but I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of that.
Yeah, through the chair. So for winter resources, where we spend our marketing is we pay for half of the membership fee to BC Sled. So we support them with their consortium for Ride BC or I Ride BC. So for the sled club, that's where we put our money. We support them for their trade show efforts and then supply them with magazines and assets for promoting at the trade shows, because we can't afford to do all those trade shows that they go to. And then the advertising, it's the targeted ads. We get content from them and then we push their targeted ads to promote the snowmobiling experience here. Definitely we can allocate resources differently in terms of including other, sort of the entire business climate for the advertising efforts for the winter to showcase that when you do come to Sycamoose. Again, it's for winter experiences, you're right, we do have sledding and we need to capitalize on that. And then we've also allocated quite a bit of resources towards marketing that stay in Sycamoose and skis. So it's a big feature in it's a one-page feature, in our visitor guide, where we're trying to promote the affordability of staying in Sycamoose. And then, for instance, our big push for Family Day, where we can stay in Sycamoose and, go to Revelstoke one day, go to Vernon one day, and then go to Sun Peaks another day. So showing that we're an affordable base. I think we could, put some more resources to marketing that a little bit better. And definitely we could add that into the plan as we submit for, the winter season for 2025-26.
Yeah, maybe it was just because maybe it's all in here. It's just it's not coming through. So that's why I was just suggesting when it comes to the budget period, whenever our next meeting is, it would be nice to maybe tells a different story,
Sure.
right? Okay.
Okay, Councillor Evans.
Thank you. Through the chair. Carly, do we have ads in the Kelowna airport of our sledding?
Mhm.
Thought so, yeah.
Yes.
That's a great thing that we have there because that's gonna be a hub of people seeing those ads and.
Yeah, so through the chair, we have invested in we have 2 digital screens in the arrivals area, so where people are standing collecting their luggage. And we get 6-second ads, 4 rotations in whatever their rotation is, and every month I get to change out those ads. So right now it is people with dogs in the dog park, 2 sledding ones and I have to get back with you on what that one is, but it's all seasonally based. So because I get to adapt them,
Yeah.
I usually look at, starting in March, I'm gonna start promoting summer experiences. So looking at, a lot of the back road, the ATV experiences, waterfalls, the spring colors, that kind of stuff. So we sort of look at that 2-3 month window where we start advertising with Explore Signals.
Through the chair, good job.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna have to speed this process up because we are,
Yeah.
okay, so let's keep moving.
Economic development. The projects that we've identified here, so again, industry development training, we've seen the importance from our stakeholder engagement meeting. We recognize that on Monday, we had 30 business owners and user groups show up for our half-day session at the Red Barn. And the big thing that came out of that is a lot of business owners were meeting for the first time face-to-face. So it was a wonderful networking opportunity for a lot of our business owners. We're going to continue to build on that, and we've recognized that we need a industry roundtable that we'll host once a month because these business owners would like to collaborate. So it's something that we've tried before, but this formal engagement session actually showcased that or highlighted to the business owners the importance of attending something like this. So we're going to continue building on that and adding that into our industry development and training model. We've got the business walks that we're working on coming up. Again, we're doing for our business owners, we've combined the budget, we split it between 2 organizations, between tourism dollars and economic development funds. But again, you'll see the same types of workshops that go through because typically they're the same people attending them. I've outlined the conferences that I go to from an economic development standpoint. We do our website, social media, and marketing materials. We are upgrading our website right now. It should go live here at the end of this month. I'm gonna go down for the other projects. So we've added a line in for cities program support. So if they need support in any areas, this $5,000 line item also captures the in-kind support that I'm giving up. My board has directed me to be their admin support. So I manage the finances, the meeting minutes, I host everything. So that's part of that support for them. And then we have our partnership programs that we have extended through our local organizations like States, Community Futures, Work BC, et cetera. I'm gonna let our director, Milt Moore from the Devport, talk about 2 significant projects that we're looking at for the 2025 program.
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, this is really exciting for me, so thank you, first of all, for having me as part of the Development Corporation. I'm really enjoying working with the board and trying to make our community much better and stronger. That's what I'm doing. When I got on board with the Economic Development Board, we kind of, as a group, came together and said, well, how are we going to increase commerce? How are we going to make this better? And one of the things that I saw was we don't have any commercial space. We don't have, we want to try to drag somebody out of their basement workshop into somewhere, or bring somebody from Kamloops or Salmon Arm to open up a bike shop here. We don't have that kind of space. So one of the things that we thought was with the new medical clinic that's opening up, Inlandson, where we are at right now, what a perfect building. It's much better than most of the buildings I ever operated my businesses in over the years. And we thought maybe this is an opportunity for the Economic Development Corporation to run the building, so we have space, so we can have some inexpensive offices. If we want to have somebody that's an up and coming web designer or graphic designer or somebody that's like 360 Designs, they need more space, they need to have they want to hire some more people and have more machinery, that kind of a thing. There's our space right there. Because I think we were originally looking at trying to build something and have that space, but that's a 5-year plan. This is almost immediate and gives us the opportunity to offer inexpensive space and a tool to bring things into our community. Because right now we can say, hey, bring your bike shop, but where are they gonna go, right? So for us, we have a couple things that we wanted to do. One was the Finlandson hub, basically, where we create the O2 place for business to be able to grow and have our offices in. And the other thing that we noticed was a way to tell the world what we're doing here. We've got great spots, as you know, we're the gateway to the Okanagan, to the Thompson, and to Alberta. So digital signage was identified as a real important thing that we could have. And we've, you notice on our budget, we've got both line items for revenue from the digital signage and from Finlandson, and also the costs associated with it. So it's actually creates money for the ECDEV to do other projects, but also more importantly, gives us the ability to share experience videos on the highway. We can have 10 different groups with their ads, and we've got them broken down to different parts of the day, and it can really allow us to push the message out to the world, or at least the people that drive by what we're doing in a really substantial way. So that's kind of some of the things that we're doing. We also created an events subcommittee as well to try to look at bringing in other events like whether it's a music festival or what have you. So we're really working hard to do that kind of.
That's awesome. And I'm certain that a lakeside hotel is still on your radar. And actually Dean has some.
Dean's got, by the way, welcome.
Welcome.
Very nice to meet you.
Awesome.
Yeah, very much on our radar is a hotel, boutique hotel. And we are in conversations with several different developers. Nothing of any substance yet. Lots of irons in the fire for sure.
Awesome. Excellent. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question about 217 Finlayson. I don't know if we're duplicating effort here. I like the idea of an incubator there, and $20,000 seems like a pretty small investment for what we can get in return for that. But how does that conflict with the MOTI and the parking that we're losing because of the Bruin Bridge project, and where we're going to gain some additional parking because of the Bruin Bridge project? I thought 217 Finlayson was part of that discussion. So
yeah, I think staff is still working on that, Malcolm. So I think that we have an in-camera discussion about that. So yeah, I think staff's still working on that. So nothing's in concrete yet. We're still in sand, a little bit fluid. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for all of that. That's a lot. Great job, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving here. We've got Karen, I think you're doing the Sycamoose Health Center update. You're not, you're Daryl. Daryl's doing the health center update. No, stop it. Not me.
Would you mind to? Yeah, 1 second. Technical. There it is. My mouse went rogue. Okay, there it is.
Okay, so taking into consideration time, I just today just wanted to update council on work at the new health center. In your package, you have a report from Scott Builders. sort of like looking back over the last little while and then sort of just to highlight, so this is a picture of building where a lot of the current glass is going in, so what used to be cardboard makes a significant change in terms of the appearance of the building. It's spectacular. The shell is a little bit more than 78% complete. You got some snapshots of the outside and also on the brick top. Work that's been ongoing currently in the building is the T-bar ceiling. They've already primed the building. Millwork will start probably, I believe, early March, but they'll be bringing that in. The major delays that we have in terms of getting flooring, tiling done is once again about getting the building energized. So just waiting for TELUS to come up and remove a pole where the vaults will go. Daryl's been in constant contact and has reached out to appeal to TELUS to come up, move the pole. Short of us popping it up. Do that. And because then Daryl's got the contractor, Civil Works, lined up. So as soon as TELUS can come in and remove that pole, then he can pull the trigger on that. And still reaching out to Hydro to see if they can get in a lot earlier than the 30 days that they're protected. But there's a lot in the air right now, so it's pushing our schedule. So right now, if we can get power, and we talked a little bit about this last month, is that if we can get power to the building by the end of February and through the months of March for the flooring, commissioning everything, get the lighting in place. Potentially we get the building latter part of April, but worst case scenario would be May. So all the discussions that we've been having and work that Karen and Bianca are doing in terms of tenants, suggesting that the month of May, right? To happen sooner, that's great. So just give you the snapshots. This is the interior where they've done the primer. That's the community space. These are the hallways. They're always inspiring. So this is the entrance. So the picture on the right is the third party space. Once again, it's undeveloped other than just the shell. The team is busy working with prospective tenants to come into that building. So we're exhausting those efforts and we hope to have more news for you in the coming weeks. We're about a month out from some discussions. Picture on the left is basically the entryway. So the by the third party space, looking back, that's the main entrance into the facility. And then through those two doors is where the community space is. This is the main reception for the medical side of the building. So that bulkhead there is basically where the reception desk is going. We need to consult with council. These are 3 concept ideas for the entrance sign. So on the, take it like top left, top right, and then the bottom. So 1, 2, 3. See by the schematic, the idea is that we would use the same cladding material that's on the building for aesthetics, as well as the brickwork that is depicted on the building itself. In terms of the lettering, we would seeking your input on what design concept you would prefer. So the one on the left has much larger profile in terms of lettering. Option 2, the one on the right is just instead of 4 lines, it just has the 2 lines, the Sigma South Center, and then the third at the bottom is just a different version of that lettering. So with the 200 Main Street, that's the property address. So we have to provide some direction to Scott Builders as well as one of the companies that we're working with in terms of wayfinding. So to spec that out, get some quotes. So we're trying to tie up some loose ends so that we can just keep moving that process along. What are your thoughts around 3 concepts?
Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, thanks, Daryl. I like number 2, but I got a question. Are we any further ahead with interior health coming in with the blood clinic?
No, we're not with interior health.
They're
We've had
not.
conversations, but there hasn't been any momentum.
Okay.
Karen's been in discussion with Life Labs.
Okay.
Conference call, Zoom meeting, and then they followed up with on site and have a peek. but nothing confirmed. But yeah, we're kind of not perplexed, but we understand the complexities around interior health coming into the building. We've attempted for the past, year and a half to have those conversations, but those conversations just really didn't get any traction and create some results that we could bring forward to.
Thank you.
Just before I go to Councillor Bailey, where are we at with Life Labs? Because I would like to reach out to Interior Health at some point. If Life Labs is not going to, like, I'd like to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, well, we don't, we have like, I've got a meeting invite to two of the people they put me in touch with. And Life Labs is also in talks with Interior Health. You can't just open a lab. There's all kinds of licensing through the ministry and that kind of, those kinds of, that rigor involved. So, when we had our meeting with Life Labs, they let us know that they came to us through Interior Health. So, that was my take on it. Anyway, they already.
So Interior Health is backing them. It's like they're supporting them.
Together.
Yeah, but so they're in supporting.
Life Labs can't together or with some collaboration. So that's kind of what I was left. And it wasn't left. We are waiting to hear back with the people in that.
Okay, that's positive. Okay, yeah. Okay, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you feedback on the signs. I think it should be 1 or 3. I'm not a big fan of sycamores and brackets. I don't think that sends the right message. So, I mean, I would be fine with either 1 or 3, but I think that's just the right way to go to try and represent us. But yeah, having sycamores and brackets, I don't think that would be the right way to go.
Yeah, Councillor Evans,
I like number 2.
without brackets.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Bushel.
Chair, it's really hard to say until you know where the sign's gonna go on the building, exactly. I mean, that gives you an idea, but where the sign's gonna go on the building? Is it gonna have, we just gonna have one sign? Are we gonna have any kind of other signage down by the community space at all? Is this gonna be is this gonna be on Riverside or?
It's gonna be on Main Street.
The front door?
On Main
It's close to the entrance, the main entrance to the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Daryl, do we know the size of this type? And to be honest, I was hoping for a little bit more Sycamoose branding.
Sure.
So look, I was hoping that it looks a bit more like the Sycamoose branding. So that was kind of what I had envisioned. This is pretty square. I don't know. It's just, you know, we spent a lot of money to brand our community, and it works and it looks really good. So, yeah, I guess that would be, how big is this? And yeah, maybe they could give us something with a bit more branding in it.
Dimension wise, I believe it's around 7 feet wide and about 5 feet tall. We had discussed and reviewed, taking into consideration the signage that we have at the roundabout, the entrance off the the 2 highways. So the lettering was sort of consistent with that type, in the absence of having like all the other more decorative that we have at the traffic circle.
Councillor Evans, sorry.
Yeah, just to qualify, what I was thinking was number 2 with Sycamore /Sycamores. That would work. Maybe with our logo.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, just a question for you about the branding. Are you talking about like that sign and Sycamoose written rather than, oh, okay. That would be cool. I would take the brackets away and choose number 2. I think the stacking of 4 words is a bit much.
Sir, through the chair, I just wanted to point out that when the name was changed from the Shuswap Healing Center to the Sycamoose Health Center, Sycamoose was included within the brackets, and that's what Sletchin and Sycamoose agreed upon.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why the other ones aren't showing the Sycamoose in brackets, but that was the intent when that decision was made.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to change that, actually, so I'm not happy with Sycamoose in brackets.
No,
That needs to
no.
I mean, I don't mean it, I am, but perhaps Councillor Evans.
If it's okay to do it, you could get an artist to use our font to make the word Mouse and then a slash and that logo so that they're the same. And then the rest of the letters could be the square ones, which will work well. The branding's there.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should make a decision today. I don't, this is a big decision and you want it right. And I think it'd be nice to print those off and give them to everybody in color and just maybe find and do a little homework and maybe have somebody do a rendering of our branding.
Yeah, this is a
Back
big,
to the next meeting.
Yeah.
sorry, Gord. Yeah, this is a big project for us and for us to make this decision like right now, I feel like we're being rushed here.
No, just want to get a sense of. If you want to change, what further discussion would be about the texture of the signage.
I'm sorry?
Now we can go back to the design team and take into consideration with our font, for our branding. Do you want us to move away from the metal cladding and the brickwork? Do you want?
I like the metal clad. I mean, our Sycamoose is when you come into town and on the circle, I think that's all in metal, is it not? It's all in aluminum.
Metal lettering, but more.
Aluminum. So that could, go ahead, Bianca.
Just because like right now, what the proposal is Scott Builders will create the backing and then we have a local company that would put the letters on. So if we're okay with the look of it, because it kind of flows with the building, it's in then we can at least greenlight Scott Builders for the structure. And the lettering, if we need to, we can take some time on that, because the lettering, what it's gonna do, similar to the roundabout, sorry, I don't have much of a voice. It's gonna be lighting behind it and our local business will do that. So we do have some more time for the lettering, but if we could just get a blessing on that back part,
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
Yeah. I think is council happy with the background? Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, I like the cladding that matches the building and the rock work. I like option 3, pretty much the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Daryl, you want to go ahead so we can?
Yeah, let's move this along. Thank you for your input. So, I guess aside from the delays and kind of the projected timelines to get this project complete, work is being done. It's just that we can't get the flooring, all the finishes done. So basically the interior is at a point where we're waiting for that. And then I guess concurrent with that is just the discussions with prospective tenants. And then because we'll be coming forward to council with some agreements for your endorsement. We anticipate a lot of that work coming forward in the month of March, like latter part of March. Before we get into April, but an update to the work is progressing, but our biggest concern and the biggest delay is getting power to the facility.
Okay, thank you. Looks great. We passed it, yes, it looks lovely. Okay, building department, Tyson, take it away. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. I'll give you a little one. I'm ready for it. Awesome. Okay, so as Daryl said, we talk fast and keep short. So first off, the building building units have increased again year-over-year, which is an extremely positive sign that the underlying economies and founders that was also useful. It is mandated the building department to support these individuals by positioning themselves in collaboration and resource for their building related requirements. Through their hard work, they are supplying the vital resource that is the cornerstone of the family and the community at large. Safe place to call home. Tecumseh is fortunate to have a committed building sector who have dedicated their lives to gaining expertise in their respective fields. We can partner together to bring these homes to life. It's a privilege and work to serve the regulatory needs. With the increase of interest of homeowners who want to take advantage of the BC Housing Secondary Suite Grant Incentive Program to convert their existing spaces into dwelling units. Several builders have successfully walked through the process in permitting, construction, and reporting to BC Housing to procure the grants for these homeowners, and again, adding much needed supply in the ways of housing. This experience has served as a template that can be replicated, and we look forward to more innovative projects in the coming year. Our commercial department, headed by Michelle Bogue, has been busy in all facets of working with potential developers, keeping inspections current with the ongoing exciting projects we see being constructed, and developing in-house record management protocols to increase efficiency in delivering our services. Along with Michelle, Nicole Hansen has used her extensive experience in government operation and her talent for organizing to help our department go from this to this. She had a photo of her.
Oh, what is that here? Oh, that's nice, guy. Good cat. No.
This year, the province has updated both Part 4 and Part 9 of the BC Building Code to include enhanced measures to brace against lateral loads subjected to buildings through seismic activity and wind loads. These measures will touch each facet of the permitting and building process, from design, plan reviews, and execution in the field. It's a complicated piece of legislation that both building officials and builders alike will need to familiarize themselves with. There's ongoing training to provide the stakeholders with the knowledge to use prescriptive requirements or a calculation-based method to meet the requirements. While this transition takes place, there's an expectation that permitting times will unfortunately be increased, as these systems will take additional time to review. And adding inspection for seismic panels will also be required in the field to ensure that designs are being carried out. It's still the contention of the department to make the regular process as painless as possible as we find creative ways to meet the new standards presented. I just wanted to conclude by highlighting some of the projects that are currently underway. Winter conditions hasn't impeded these artisans and craftsmen from delivering high quality homes and structures to our town. Gingerly navigating an icy pitched roof, or working together to stitch the bones of a home, and then not going the last one here. And getting frozen water lines, as our Steve Starkey does, to once again return water to flow, is the work of the brave and the committed. And these are the efforts that are recognized and revered as we do our part in the building process. So just want a big shout out to all the hardworking people out there in the winter. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Rich.
Through the chair, Tyson, I was reading through the seismic thing, so that's just blanket, like, we're gonna have an earthquake?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we could have a flood or a fire, but they just literally, so when they blanket like that, like, do they blanket as they do with Fire Safe in Vancouver?
Well, that's, I think, the chagrin of lots of interior municipalities. It's the research that they were going off of, seeing the higher seismic activity was definitely located in the Lower Mainland. And I've asked the same questions about interior municipalities who aren't as affected by either factors, and considering longer times, increased cost of construction, how much that would be a benefit to our community. But the code hasn't really allowed for any variance for interior users. So
There's been lots of discussion about that between the different municipalities that neighbor us. So yeah, we don't have a lot of wiggle room, unfortunately.
Can I follow up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, that's maybe where council, where we have a little bit of pushback, instead of getting, you just blanket brushed with these building codes, it costs our community so much money. Like, I don't mind building for what we're gonna get, but the chances of an earthquake in St. Louis are, I'm gonna go pretty slim.
Are we forgetting great situations?
Right?
Councilor Bushel.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, Tyson, good job. Thanks very much for the report. Looks like we're, down in permits, but we're up more than double in bonds. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, a nice photo of Nicole's closet. Trying to compete with Daryl.
It's a big closet, really big.
Thanks, Tyson.
Is that everything?
Yep, I got more questions. Oh, I think we're good. Thank you. Hey, Daryl, you're up with Lions Park Dog Park requests and curbside waste request.
Nice. Boy. He looks cold.
I'll do it.
Okay. Just a couple of loose ends tie up from the end of last year. We're just potentially tying up some sidebar concerns. Operations left dangling, so.
Danglies, okay.
Okay, so we spoke late last year about the potential of putting a small dog park in Lions Park. There was a concern that a request that came in. And we said we'd look at it. So we did a little bit of research. The American Kennel Club recommends a minimum size of 0.3 acres if you're going to do a dog park. Lions Park is approximately 1.4 acres. We've got two optional spots that we like that 0.3 acres. It's a lot for that small park. So we've shaved it down to 0.2 just to show what that might look like. It still takes up quite a bit of space. We've got the community garden here, we've got a bathroom here, and we've got a little playground. So there's really limited spaces where we could put a dog park if we wanted to. We'd be looking at about $20,000 in fencing. And we would be taking out a significant number of trees. So even this location here with the lesser amount of trees, we're still looking at 47 trees to do that. So I think there would be some.
There's a cost to that too.
And I think that there's some neighbors that would be impacted here too. Martin Street and Shuswap and Temple, and I'm not sure it's a great place to put it. We can bring it back to the budget final meeting if you want to, but it would be a centralized location for small dogs, but there are some serious cons with it. But I'll leave that for information.
Council, do you guys have some questions? Councilor Rich.
So I'm just gonna, if we got 20 grand in fencing for that, I'm gonna say that's, and you know me and dogs, but if we took that 20 grand in fencing and just stuck it onto our kids park in Finlayson, killed no trees and kind of looped out so that our kids could run around without getting hit by a car, is that an option? Can I ask that we look at something like that Mary Waters suggested?
We're looking at that playground for next year.
It was 120.
Right, so I mean, we're gonna do one more budget meeting to finalize everything. We can look at where.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking maybe that fencing goes in over there and unfortunately our small dogs are not in the park.
Something we can talk about for sure.
It's Daryl.
Okay,
thanks, Daryl.
I had one more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councilor Bailey.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'd say just based on the budget this year, and this would be a new expenditure, I don't think we have the money for it. So, I mean, we could bring it to finance, have another discussion, but I think cutting out 47 trees is a no-go as well. Like, I think that would.
I agree.
Like, I just don't see how that would be possible or how that would actually benefit the community. I know a lot of people would be very upset with losing those trees.
And
I don't,
and
I
it's
wouldn't.
more grand that we need to find towards this.
Yeah.
I would just, I don't know.
I personally don't think it's it's worth a lot of our time based on what you're able to do in that location. Other discussion, great, but I think that from my perspective, I don't think I need to discuss it again. I don't know how council feels, but.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I just, I feel like there are lots of other spaces that where we don't have to remove trees, that we could create a little safe haven for small dogs. We don't need to. People might have to walk
Their dog.
there a distance, right? Get exercise.
Sarah, through the chair. So we looked back and this actually had been considered by a former council, I think in 2011, requested by the same resident. And at that time, council opted not to proceed. I mean, we could bring it back to budget, but if there's direction from council to notify the resident that won't be proceeding with a dog park in this area, then we could do that also.
That's Rich.
Through the chair, and that's exactly, I'm wondering if we can reach out to Mrs. Schmiller, send her the numbers. I know that she's been in part of our community forever and is a taxpayer. And I think when she realizes what we're looking at, the number of trees and the cost, that it may be a new consideration. But I think we should send her a letter and say, hey, we have looked into it and thank for your concern. But right now, I think it's it's a pipe dream.
This way.
That's the direction.
Council would, do we want to make a motion that we not pursue this moving forward? Councillor Bushel.
Sure, do you want to just include it in the budget and then we talk about it in the budget, but after the budget's done, we just say no, then, because of the numbers? And you're talking a 0.5% increase.
I would just take it.
I think my bother taking it forward, we're not, it's a 0.5%. So.
Actually a full percent. You gotta take up the trees.
Gotta take up the trees.
Yeah.
Do you want to make the motion?
Sure. I just, maybe to Councillor Rich is that we not proceed with it, but follow up with a letter to the resident who suggested it and outline why.
Councillor Rich, want to second that? Sarah, you got that? All in favor? That's carried. Are you in favor, Gord? Or opposed?
I wanted to wait till the budget.
Anyone opposed? You're opposed? That's carried.
Okay, thanks for the direction. We also spoke about trash. We had Jennifer Taylor come and talk about solid waste pickup and what other communities are doing and follow up and information. We've done a little bit of follow up and some homework. So these columns represent just our neighbors, what they're doing. The garbage recycling and food waste is primarily contracted out when we look at the neighbors in the area. Currently, Sycamoose has a number of contractors serving our community. There's a large commercial company coming in on Fridays, and their rate is $24 a month. And they're doing the Friday pickup. So we see lots of bins all over town. I tried to get a number of what the subscription level was in Sycamoose, but they haven't given me that hard and fast number, but I would suggest it's probably a few hundred houses. I see bins all over the place. So that is a larger company that comes in and serves our community. There's also a couple of local smaller companies that are running around picking up bags and taking them to the dump, and it's as low as $3 a bag. So it kind of puts us in a position here in Sycamoose where we're a little bit unique with seasonality that we see. Some of these neighbors that have gone out and they administer these programs for the contractor, they're not huge amounts of money per month, but there's no opting out to them. So that could be a little bit of a consideration from our point of view, because we have a lot of people that would be opting out. So next steps for us, we can promote the existing options that exist out there now. Maybe a registry, or maybe we just get them out on Facebook or social media so people know they get a contractor, or we can pursue some additional quotes from a bigger company. Just seeking direction on that one.
Councillor Rick?
Through the chair. So I am 100% for garbage pickup. I think we should do it. And I think people need to, that we need to advertise that it's going to cost them less than going to the dump. And I think it just takes us into the next level of being a forward-thinking municipality. And honestly, if the opting out thing, I'm not all for that. You know what? You chose to live here. This is what happens. And I don't get to go to Calgary, Alberta and say, hey, I only live here 3 months a year because I live in Sycamore, so I'm not paying for garbage. I just pay my water and garbage as per norm. So I'm not sure why we're giving people that opportunity. On the other side of their lives, they're not getting that opt-out. Chase doesn't opt out. So if we look at Chase and what they're doing with their garbage, it's about $110 a household per year, which is less than if you're paying $5 a week to go to the dump, which is kind of on average. So I really think we pursue this, and I think Sycamores, it just moves us into that next level.
Councillor Bailey and Councillor Bushel.
I think this is a bigger discussion than just under to do it right now. I think there's a lot of issues with this. I don't think it's as easy as meets the eye. I mean, there's certainly like condos that have a commercial agreement. So we're really just talking about single family homes here, I guess, in terms of the pickup side of it. I don't know. I personally, I'd like to look at the options and give people like the option, and maybe the district of Sycamores can go to some of these private options and say, hey, if we make you a preferred vendor or we do something, we can get a better price. And then individuals can have that service, but they can pick it and have something reliable, but without us imposing it. Like, there's probably a lot of different ways that we could do this and still have something that is serviceable for the community. But I'm not sure if we actually have to mandate it right across Sycamores or if that is the right thing. But this is probably not a 10-minute conversation either, right?
Councillor Bushel.
Yes, through the chair, I agree with both.
I do.
And it's a bigger conversation, but myself, it's one of the biggest complaints I get is, we don't even get garbage. Everybody says that, but when the time comes, pay for it. It'd be good to have those options with a DOS-led service, just to say, this is the roster. Everybody in the community, this is what, well, that route, and the other route would be individually. You could pay this much, or you could pay $5 a day, and and at least have some numbers for them, and we could post it or put it in the paper or whatever, and get the community thinking. But I don't think we want to make the decision, real quick. Thank you.
Okay, and I agree. I think there's we can still kick this around a little bit and figure out the best solution for our community.
Yeah, so through the chair, we can dig a little deeper and see what some options might be up there.
Okay.
Some hard numbers.
Councillor McCabe, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest, I would support just promoting the existing options.
You're supporting the existing options?
Yeah, just support the existing options.
Okay, Sarah?
Through the chair, so as part of that, if there's a report back to council, there could be, a wider survey to me and communications campaign around that. But I guess my question would be like, for budget, would there need to be a line item for that in 2025, or would we just look at 2026?
Through the chair, putting out a collection like this, you're looking 2026, 2027, just because of how big of a project it is. So I guess direction on kind of what you want that to look like, because usually when it comes to something like this, to spend a bit of money on some research, proper surveys, you could earmark some money just for that start of it. Or we could try the route of promote those additional users, put out a survey in as economical of a way as possible, and then maybe try to incorporate it for 2026, that consultation piece. Cause this is like, I would say this wouldn't even roll out until 2027. Salmon Arm, even when they went and switched, when I worked in Salmon Arm, they switched from garbage collection or recycling to bringing in food compost, and that in itself was a huge endeavor for the community. And a lot of staff time. So some things to think about.
So what kind of direction do we need to give staff?
Yeah, if you want to just start, or maybe our new CAO might want to weigh in a bit. Let's do that.
Sounds like it would be a direction to staff to explore a new service and what those options may be, and come back to council to report with some of those options and a little bit more research on what that would mean. And we would, of course, work with Bianca on some of the financial pieces that would mean. So council could give us some direction to begin that exploration in more detail and possibly consulting with the community. So I'd ask for council to give a resolution to have us go and do that additional report back, and we'll work with Daryl to work in that piece and come back to council with a more comprehensive reporting.
Okay, we'll make that resolution. Can direct, oh, sorry.
Can I jump in too? And I would also ask that staff works with Jen Taylor. She sits on an advisory board that we put her on for recycling and garbage, as she meets every 3 months. And she's pretty passionate and she's got a ton of information. So I'd also ask that as a community member, that Jen is also at least, she's got a lot that we can learn from her instead of reinventing the wheel.
Okay, we're gonna put a resolution that we direct staff to find some more information, some more options, get some pricing, and work with Jen as she has some information that we could use, and bring it back to council. Is that good? Seconder? All in favor?
Quick.
Anyone opposed? It's carried. Go ahead.
Through the chair, Councilor McCabe, are you voting in favor because we can't see the video?
To the bathroom.
Because it's embarrassing to drink wine. in front of
Yeah,
people.
it's a waste of time.
I had to put mine in a cup. Actually blew on it so that you guys thought it was tea. Yep.
He didn't believe you. I did.
Malcolm, are you in favor of the resolution? Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna cruise right along here. Okay, we're going to SOGA resolutions. This is coming to the board, or sorry, Sarah, do you want to speak to this?
Through the chair, so we had this on the committee of the whole, so there could be discussion, but in consideration of time, we're well over. So it is on the regular council meeting for council's blessing and adoption of this resolution, so we can have discussion then if council's okay with that.
And make change if we need to.
Make changes at that point.
Is everyone okay with that? If we just move forward? Okay. Then I'm just gonna move to RCM STARS rescue boat update. I did have a meeting with the ministry. Daryl and Dean and I had a meeting with the ministry, and Daryl, did you want to update the council? Stu?
Yeah, certainly. So the meeting went relatively well. Confirmed that the section 11 application is like the permit under the section 11 is no longer warranted. Taking into consideration that the works in the stream have already been completed. So the ministry acknowledged that, there's no need to pursue that. It's now focus on under the Land Act is our tenure. So the ministry was clear in stating that, we are currently under investigation, and that the results of that investigation are forthcoming. I think Michael, when he spoke, kind of suggested that, within a month, they'll given us a complete timeline. So that's fine. We spoke about, I was asked to update the ministry on our pursuit of a letter of support from Splatching. and articulated that we had a meeting scheduled with Spletching that morning, but unfortunately, due to a death in the community, the meeting was canceled, so we didn't have an update there. As a result, I followed up. I was told by Allison with Spletching, the executive secretary, to reach out to Michael Winstanley with rights and title. So I have called him. I'm just waiting to have a conversation. But going back to our meeting, so it was left at that. Minister Halls did express concern. She responded to the mayor in a sense that it is a public safety issue. There was a conversation about timelines, delays. The ministry attempted to articulate that they have some 963 applications, but that's provincial wide. It's not specific to our region. We didn't get into the details of how close those applications are. The mayor appealed to the ministry to, as we go through the process, the results of the investigation, and then what direction the province will provide to us with respect to our tenure, is to get permission to energize the building and allow the society to put the boats under cover. So Minister Halls indicated that she would speak with her team, didn't want to have that conversation online, and indicated that she would get back to the mayor soon. So this is day 2 after that meeting. So we're still anxious to hear from the ministry as to whether or not we can green light the power and get those boats under cover.
Yeah. The province does have, as Daryl indicated, the province has some backlog that they need to take care of. But we did, in our meeting, I reiterated the need that it is their job to process permits in a timely fashion. And the rescue boathouse is just about 2 years waiting for a permit. And it is a big part of our community and has been approved by all sorts of folks prior to this. So we also had a bit of discussion about the challenges with the businesses on the channel and the financial hardship that that is causing by not having their permitting done. We had a bit of a discussion about the NOI on the channel and the impact to our community with any new development that's looking at Sycamoose and looking at the channel. And that poses a, concern for anyone looking at that. So we did have a really good discussion about a lot of things. And I do think we were heard loud and clear. I do think that Deputy Minister Halls is going to get back to us in the next year. So I don't think that, I think the energizing the boathouse, I think will move forward here shortly. Yeah, they recognize that they do have some issues that they need to deal with. And we still need to, this isn't, we're not going to remain quiet. I think that we still need to be vocal. And if we don't hear back, I think we still need to, get back on the email or back on the phone and touch base. And this is important to it's our community. It's our taxpayers that are being impacted. And we need to get this resolved and get them getting back to us in a timely fashion. Okay. Councillor Rich.
Right through the chair. So are we thinking a month to hear back or a day or two? Because I heard both. Daryl said about a month and then Colleen said a couple days. And then from there, are we holding off on energizing until we have permission?
Yes, we're holding off on energizing until we have permission, which should be a day or two. The month was investigation and they should have all of their information within the month. But I'm saying to Deputy Halls, our boat's sitting there a stone's throw away from the boathouse. Can we continue? So that's for the couple days.
Just to follow up. Thank you. Thank you for advocating for us and being there and same to Daryl and doing this. And hopefully the province is hearing us. This is crazy that this is a 2-year project.
Yeah. Councillor Beach?
Yeah, just to clarify, still no support from Splatching. We've asked,
and Daryl has reached out, and this is the second time Daryl's reaching out, and he's getting a little bit of a shuffle. So we're just going to wait to hear from them moving forward. We're not going to pursue the support letter any longer.
Just to follow up with what you touched on as well, like that, this is one issue, but there's several issues that are affecting our community and affecting businesses. And the uncertainty and the regulatory uncertainty around it is fully within the provincial control. And it's impacting numerous businesses along the channel. And it's really unfair. I mean, at the end of the day, you're impacting people's livelihoods, the investment climate. You can go on and on. We've had in the last 3 weeks, economic shock in the country. Like we are now, I think, a little more vulnerable as a country because of tariffs and all these other discussions. And we really need to start looking at what can we do to help our economy move forward. And, you know, every single small business along that channel wants to invest, wants to build something there and needs to have some certainty in that. And so I hope there's a shift at the provincial level of what we go more towards enabling than slowing down and not allowing permits to go forward. That has happened over the last couple of years. So I'm glad that you've had, you know, a receptive year, but I do agree, we have to continue to talk about this issue because there is a fairness element to it. I don't think anybody begrudges a fair regulatory system, but when you get to a point of where everyone looks at that regulatory system as unfair, unjust, and then deliberately sometimes slow, that's when you get erosion of trust. And I don't want to see that happen. And, you know, in our case, it was because this was a life safety issue. And I'm glad that the province saw that. So.
Thanks. Okay, so let's keep heading and we're going to go to mayor and council reports. Councillor Evans.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councillor Rich.
I know I've done a lot. It's just been a really long day today. So, yeah, pass.
Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, yeah, good to have you back, so I don't have to chair another meeting. Thank you. Yeah, I had a couple of developer meetings, which passed on to Nicole in June, and those were pretty exciting. And I attended a Owlhead Hunters Range Working Group meeting yesterday. And, you know, basically trails around here, and mostly it was revolved around the Owlhead and, you know, the Owlhead area and the Skyline Forestry Service Road and that bridge, you know, looking at they can keep that bridge in there, which would also help us in the forestry or the fire season if they're going to call it a fire season. The other thing was, yeah, we had a meeting with ECDev and the chamber, the council, and that was an interesting meeting, and we all learned a little bit. It was good brainstorming, and that's about it. Yep,
thank you. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I can't remember when the user group meeting was, but I think it was since our last meeting that a few of us went to join the user group at the rec center. And that was I think a good meeting. And yeah, and then just the ACTEV meeting and interagency was also very interesting. Had some new people attend there.
Good, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
I think everyone's touched on it, so next.
Up to the chair. And I always try to do my kid thing with, which I forgot. Our U11s in 6 super champions. So first time in 10 years have taken the banner. So these kids, boys and girls, have done that. And I also want to speak out to Sidley. Kylo, which drives me, I know she's like, stop it. But Sid was at an invitational in Kelowna and placed, which again, fantastic for our youth. So I try to every council meeting put something out about our youth, and we've got incredible kids here and we got to keep promoting them. So our under 11s our U11s are taking it all the way. And our Eagles are going to the championship. So we got to get our folks out there, and we need volunteers too.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and I'm happy to be back. I attended after the council meeting, what did I do? Shuswap Tourism. And everyone is aware of the outcome of that meeting. So I don't think we need to go into it. And meeting and back to work. And here we are today. And, okay, so let's do public input.
Well, and nothing for me to report,
No,
in case you're wondering.
Okay.
how's the weather there, buddy?
It's, you know, plus 30, really nice, clear and sunny.
Hey, someone cut off this.
Excellent, okay, well,
One kind of.
hey, yeah, that's good, thanks. So now we're gonna go into public input. So, go ahead.
Okay, I'm a little bit nervous, but I have a couple questions about my water bill. And I chose the public meeting because that way I'm hoping some outcome for my proposal. So you all need to kind of hear it. I don't have many copies, but I have just for each side, that's a copy of my water bill. And I have a type of question about it. In our meeting.
So, excuse me, before,
I'm Rosina Labani and I live here in Sycamoos.
okay, and have you discussed your water bill with staff already?
I don't wanna do that because that means I have to make an appointment with this person. I rather choose to have all of you know what's going on because you hear it straight from me. It's not from one person to another and adding opinions about me. I'm sorry if I'm saying so, but I sometimes don't do the proper grammar, but I do my best in being clear.
Okay.
So yes, I prefer that all of you, because if there's gonna be any changes, it needs to be all of you.
Okay.
When I'm looking at the consumption, the water fixed charge is 100. Then underneath, I don't understand why is there W80, what that means, but I also understand that my actual consumption was 139. So if the water is fixed charge, from my water that I use, 139 cubic meters, the 100 supposed to be already covered, so I owe 439 because that is above the fixed charge for 100. So the same kind of goes with the sewer. The fixed charge is 100. I do not understand the other one, the S80 under, but my consumption is 111.20. So my charge should be the 11.20 minus that 100. So I understand economically that the water plant was built and everything, and there are expenses and maintenance and so on. But from what I'm seeing, I'm being charged second time the 100 cubic meters on each part. So it's just too much. So that's why I'm here. I'm saying it should be not second time the 100. It should be just the part above the 100. So for my water fixed charge, that's 100, and I owe you for 39, not for 100, for another 139. And the same with the sewer. It's 111.20, so I owe you 11.20, not 111.20. So that's the way I understand the bill. If I'm wrong, please explain it. Like I said, I understand economic issues, but that's how I read the bill. And another sort of, I have a remark here. I water in the garden in the summer. I was told I need a second meter. Yes, I understand it. But I already have 1 meter. That's where the numbers come from. So I'm not really seeing over the years since I got the water meter any plus, because with adding the sewer, the bill is really high. Way lower when I did not have the sewer. And I'm sort of thinking, if my other bill, the one for the winter months, is taken out from my summer bill, whatever is left is probably the garden water, which does not go back to the sewer system. So, but to be fair, because it could be dry year or wet year, take an average of the 3 years of the bill. and take away that number from the high bill from the summer. Now, I understand that it's more practical to have the second meter, fine, I'm okay with that. But on this bill, it does not show, but somewhere, I know I've seen, there's a meter charge. So if I already paid for my water meter, why am I being billed every month for a meter charge? Like, it's not much, but it's there. It kind of, again, it doesn't make really sense, because if it's already paid for, why is it charged for again? And
So I'm gonna get Bianca to address those for you.
Yeah, so if you ever have questions about your utility bill, we do have finance staff that will come downstairs and go over your water bill anytime we're open, just to make that clear. So don't feel like you have to make an appointment, we will come down. So your bill is based on, you have your fixed charges, which is even if you didn't use a drop of water, you're gonna get. And then your consumption charge, so your first line is your fixed, your second line is based on the amount of water that you use. And your sewer consumption is based on 80% of your water consumption. We'll be talking.
so that's where the number 80 comes from?
Yeah, that's where, that's how it works. So your consumption for your sewer is 80% of your water.
Okay.
So that's how our formula is done. We did a big consultation back in 2018. We're doing that review again this year. So it's timely that you're here to hear some of your concerns. When it comes to irrigating gardens and stuff like that, well, we love that people can grow their own vegetables. We try not to promote too much over watering. And that's why we have put in that mechanism. You can put in a second meter, there's an additional fixed charge, but then you don't get those sewer charges. Looking at the consumption that you've been using.
Yeah, I can see how it makes.
I wouldn't, but looking at your consumption, you're not a huge water user. And I wouldn't, like, usually that's what we kind of weigh on people that use a lot of water. You actually aren't a huge water user. I think, 139 cubes? Yeah, you're not a huge water user. So I would, first of all, not recommend you put a second meter. Yeah.
Because the kids are gone. But my main reason is, I honestly feel I'm being charged twice. I understand you have the fixed charge, but what if somebody doesn't play in the place? What if somebody is gone 2 weeks? It's still kind of not fair, or that you pay the fixed charge whether you do it or not. And also, because I pay the fixed charge, how come the amount that I already used is not included in it? It really is charging twice.
And at the end of the day, if we were to get rid of your fixed charge and it be all in consumption, we would have to increase the amount you pay per cube in order to pay for a water treatment plant. This is how I kind of try to explain it. If we were to just take out the fixed charge, our consumption rate that we'd have to charge you would be probably 4 times.
I'm not saying I don't wanna pay for water that I use, but I don't wanna pay for part of it twice. Whatever I have over, I gladly pay it. It's just looking at the fairness of the bill. That's the way I see it.
And when we do this review this year, we'll look at what, where our full-time residents are, because I'm assuming you're a full-time resident.
Yeah.
So what that looks like, and it's kind of hard to see because we kind of have to look at like who's claiming the homeowner grant to figure out what houses are actually full-time.
Yes.
So it'll be quite an analysis because we know that, lots of the houses in the tree streets people aren't there full-time. So it'll be a very thorough analysis on figuring out where those hotspots are. Yeah.
What you just said, kind of practical question. Let's just say I wanna leave, or bunch of people are the snowbirds. I think that's what they told them. Can you come down to the town hall and say, hey, don't charge me for this month or these months, the charge because I will not be home. Really is nobody home.
Yeah, and they just get a fixed charge and we cannot change that because it'd be an administrative nightmare. And we still have to keep the lights on our water treatment plant, our water plant and our sewer plant. But it's a very, in this community, I would say we have one of the most complex billing issues because we have such an influx at certain times of the year and then it goes away. And that'll be something that council will have to look at when it comes to our billing. We already have a strata per unit charge, which we put on our condos and all that, but I think we could go on this topic for a while.
My brain doesn't really get it, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I
We'll get a lot of education.
I understand the billing for condos and houses and apartments is different, but I'm speaking from my point about having a house. So what's kind of in my mind is, okay, if I'm under your water fixed charge, the 100 cubic meters, then I pay that fixed charge whether I have only 10 or 15 or whether I have 90. But if I'm over, I already paid my 100 in the fixed charge and I pay over what I owe over the 100. So that's kind of sort of in my mind and that's what I wanted to propose. So I hope nothing kind of sort of did come across the wrong way. That's the way I see the billing. And that's why I chose the public meeting because it's all of you that makes the decisions.
Thank you, Rosina.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so we are going to, is there anyone else online that, no? Okay, we're gonna adjourn this committee of the whole at 3:59, February the 12th. Could I get a mover? Rich, Bushel, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna go right into in-camera.